All right, we are officially live. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Happy Sunday. We have a special guest with us today.
We are officially live. Hello, everyone. Good afternoon. Happy Sunday.
Yikes. Sorry about that. That was a little bit of feedback, but we have a special guest today. She was actually on one of my previous videos a few months ago, but she is back. We have Maitreya here. Hello, Maitreya.
Hello everyone.
Part of the Liberation Code Academy crew, part of the EDU crew, right? That's where it kind of all started for us. Do you have, I thought I was hearing feedback on your end.
Yeah, sorry, I just was pulling up the thing on my phone as well.
Okay, cool. Yeah. So we're all just settling in. So we're going to officially begin in the next couple of minutes, just giving time for all of you guys to come in anyway. So welcome. But we have a lot to talk about today. I don't even know where this is going to go, Maitreya. You know, we were talking behind the scenes for a whole half an hour before we came on live, and it was just like, what is going on? Bizarro world. So we're gonna dive into a few strange things, you know, that has occurred between both myself and Maitreya. Maitreya also has a testimony that I think some people were interested in hearing. Remember when we were talking earlier on that you were actually experiencing some of what I'm experiencing now, but 2 years earlier. And you call it the glitch for you. It was a glitchy experience for you that lasted for a period of time where you were actually sent to a mental institution for how long? 7 weeks? 7
weeks altogether in 3 different hospitals.
Okay. And and there was just a whole thing going on there. To where it just confirmed a lot of the stranger things that we'll be talking about today. And the fact that I'm even experiencing some similar things to you, minus the mental institution engagement, right? Because some of the things that I've been experiencing, I even told you, you have to be mentally strong to hold on to your sanity for being able to see beyond the veil or behind the veil of certain things and what's going on behind the Wizard of Oz curtain. And not everybody is able to necessarily, they can hear about it in testimony, but sometimes witnessing it is a whole other situation. And I think I've trained my subconscious enough to be prepared for certain things. And I'm just like, yeah, I know. Okay, I get it. I'm still here. I'm holding on to myself. It will not lock me up. We can laugh about it now.
Listen, now going through it, it's like, whoa, like, should I be in this institution? Like, really? Like, it's a lot.
So also aside from that, I know you also, we're also going to get into a very important and much needed discussion on anxiety consciousness within the spiritual community. I know that was something that you were talking about. We had a conversation and I was on that same wave as well, noticing how, you know, there's this obsession with trying to escape or ascend from human experience, which is causing a lot of anxiety in itself. And there's just been this community that has built its foundation off of anxiety and escapism within the spiritual community. And it's kind of time to shut that shit down too. We're kind of here to disrupt just a little bit, put some ripples in the water, and really be authentic and honest about all of what we've, you know, just from our perspective and how things are changing and shifting. So we have quite a few different conversations that we're going to get into here. So Maitreya, I'll let you take it from here. I don't know if there's where should we start? We can start with Stranger Things and kind of go into you know, the anxiety consciousness, and because I feel like it's all going to merge anyway.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So so back in, I'd say that this whole Stranger Things reality type episode thing series kind of like started from I'd say around 2015, but it didn't really kick off until like the end of the New Year's Eve 2016. So December the 31st, 2016, going into 2017.
Mm-hmm.
I remember specifically that day because I remember I was in a very, very dark place. I was going through my own dark night of the soul. And I remember normally I would go out on New Year's Eve, but around this time I just made a very drastic transition from church and religion. So I was just in a very, very dark and misty place. So I remember being in my room and in the midst of that deep, deep depression, I saw a vision that woke me up. Like it just woke everything in me up. And it was a vision of a clock. And I was seeing this clock coming to midnight. And this was probably about 5 minutes to midnight that I saw this clock. And then I remember seeing this and I was like, yeah, something's about to go down. I need to wake up. Like, this is going to be a very interesting year. And I just feel like I need to be really present. So woke that up. And there was a lot of transitions that was happening for me at that time. I would literally just did a video talking about how I was doing a lot of ancestral transmutation around this time. And I think this is what started to really take me to another place in my spiritual awakening, because I was able to clear a lot of the gunk that had been blocking me from seeing and experiencing the truth, rather than covered by all of the illusions, by all the crap that I'd been going through. So I was going through that, and then long story short, I remember I had like this big bang event in my mind. It was like literally like a big bang, like cosmos exploding, everything. And I just remember my whole reality, my whole paradigm, everything just shifted at that moment in time, and things could never be the same. It was like going from the upside down to the right side up kind of thing. in the twinkling of an eye. For me, that was my rapture. When Christians talk about the rapture, that was me. Like I changed, everything about me changed in just like that.
It happened for me in 2016 as well, on my 33rd birthday, literally 12:01 on the dot. So that whole night thing happened with me too, where I was writing myself a letter and I wasn't keeping track of time. And the moment I stopped, I was done with my letter. It was 12:01. And I immediately felt like my original self completely filled me up. Like it was like a true awakening, full embodiment of me that was kind of like a newborn baby, but ready with wisdom. And I'm now still unfolding from 33 to now my 36, still unfolding all of the zip files, because I feel like it was just zip files of higher self files, but over time you're gonna unzip them shits. All right, so that's what I dealt with as well.
I think that's a perfect way to describe it, because I got the message that I got on that day that I had that big bang is not everything's going to make sense until after your Saturn return, which I'm going through my Saturn return right now as we speak. And so,
oh, wow. And you are an astrologer, by the way. So that's what you do. You know all about that. So I don't know.
You don't know about timing.
Astrological conversation a little bit later as well, but go ahead.
Yeah, definitely. So I knew that even though what I was experiencing was so out of this world and I could probably capture some of the stuff, I couldn't settle with it at this moment. I just had to allow it to just experience and just take note, and then wait until now to be able to fully unravel it and be like, okay, what is it that really happened? So that's what was happening around that time. So fast forward, went to, I remember it being the 4th of April 2017. And I remember that date specifically because this was the full moon in Aries around that time, but it was also I was picking up that whole 144 energy, 44 2017 all equaling one, so it was like 144. I was like, okay, there's about to be some kind of identity integration, but walking experience. Like, I knew that I was going to feel this within myself, but I was also very mindful of how it was playing out in other people, specifically Virgos and Libras. But it was very, very interesting to see as I was downloading another layer of my own personal identities when I got my name changed, my Treya. But I noticed that other people were changing too, but I knew it was like a preview event of what was about to fully come.
Yeah. Oh, so wait, so this being 2019 and 2016, 15, 16, is it safe to say that it's almost as if what we've both experienced and what a lot of other people have experienced around that time, if it comes in droves, is that maybe that was a simulated version of what's happening, what we're actually coming into 2020 full on alignment. We got a sneak peek of that integration.
Definitely the test phase. And I don't even think that was enough to show us what
was coming. Yeah.
But I know for a fact that was a time travel, which is why they're bringing up so much time travel in movies and all of this kind of stuff. Everything is time travel at the moment. I feel that I had traveled to 2020, but living in 2016, 2017 at that time. And this is why there was so much dissonance, because how can you really perceive information that is so futuristic? I mean, futuristic in a way that it's like, this was literally Stranger Things, like laying out that I was experiencing. And I'm trying to really understand that in a time that hadn't even reached there yet. So everyone around you is not going to understand. And so even you yourself, you're going to feel that dissonance because you're like, what the hell is actually going on?
So what were some of the strange things that kind of led you to realizing that there is something other than just, awakening within self? What were some of the external glitches that you were experiencing that kind of led you into the hospital?
So I remember it first started with, literally, I was just having these little Mandela effects where I would have a conversation with someone and go back, say like if it was a message, go back and the whole message is completely different. Like, I know what I said, I know what was exchanged, that would happen, or there'll be an object that I know specifically I placed there because I know, like, I have to have certain things in specific areas for me to be able to find it. So for me to be able to put my keys in my fridge, that is very off for me, but what made it really weird is that these types of things were happening on a regular basis, like almost like one after the other. And so then also when I started having, I think what really signaled it for me is I remember seeing this glitch of this dementor type being come through. And I remember I was on the phone to someone and then I literally like saw it like in my peripheral, like third eye vision. And I was like, what was that? And then I started to kind of like tune in to what I was seeing. And I saw like this dementor type being like carrying something underneath it. And I was like, what the hell is that? I'd never seen anything like that before in my life. But I was like, that's like some kind of death angel or something. Like, I was picking up like a spirit of death. So then the next day, look up on the news and I have a bridge right outside where I was living. And the news was saying that this guy had fallen off a bridge. Now, if you look at the bridge, there's no way for anyone to just fall off a bridge. They would have to have been pushed off. So I was like, what the hell's going on here? I remember I get, with my vision, sometimes I get snatched into places and I'm just like, whoa, how did I get here? So I literally got snatched into this vision where I was taken into like, I could see like this corridor, and but it was like it was the person who passed away, but they were being held as prisoners. He was being held as prisoners, like, and as a prisoner, and he was getting carried down this corridor. And I was like, what the hell is going on? Is this some kind of purgatory, or like, what is this?
That's interesting, because when my laptop mysteriously floated out of my house and the phones floated outside of the house in the backyard 4 times in a row, I went into a meditation, and it felt like my mother, who is passed, came to me. And the transmission was a little off, but what I heard was, you don't know what's going on over here. You have no idea what's happening on this side. Like, wherever she is, wherever her consciousness is, this is why. And I usually connect with her, but most likely for these past couple of years, they've been wearing her face more so. It hasn't been her. Like, I can feel the resonance of my mother. And when I tapped in specifically to her, she came with like a state of panic. Like, you have no idea what's going on this side of things. Like, you'll know it's a lot to put on you in one sitting, but there's some shit going down where she is. So that whole purgatory aspect of just spirits kind of like having these certain experiences, there's a mystery to that as well. But yeah, I agree. That's what it felt like when she spoke to me.
Yeah, I remember I spoke to you, and I spoke to you about my own personal experience with my godmother, and me having experiences of her being in this type of purgatory environment. But she also had a type of urgency of trying to get these messages to me. In fact, it was her who guided me through this experience. And I've never had like such a intense, in fact, I've had like moments where I've connected, like, like where you remember and you had that heart connection, but never where it's like, I can hear you in my head screaming, you need to wake up. Like, you need to pay attention. And even whilst everything had happened, so just fast forward a little bit. So I was having an altercation with a family member, and it became really aggressive. And before I even get to there, so I was when this whole thing happened, I was feeling on edge, because I was like, I feel I need to protect myself. I feel that I literally just felt eyes all over me. And I was like, I need to protect myself. And I literally went to my friends, and I was like, I'm feeling this energy of people are going to try and discredit me. I literally saw myself getting sectioned by a hospital, and I've never been sectioned. I've never had any connections to mental health or psychosis or anything, apart from like depression and suicidal thoughts when I was younger. So I don't have any type of connections in that area. But I remember just feeling this feeling of, this is going to happen. And I felt like I needed to just literally be on my P's and Q's. And I literally felt someone lurking outside, which is why, and I remember my family member came to me, and I was like, yes, like this is going to happen now. Like, I knew the moment when it was going to happen.
Okay.
And I ran into the bathroom. And turned on the shower, and water is like my peace. It's if I can't get to water, I imagine waterfalls. So I would go into the water, and I have like this at the time, this is when I was developing a lot of my giftings, and I'm originally a singer, so I have the ability to sing and do toning and stuff like that. But I was learning how to do these vibrational tonings to where I could literally raise the vibration of my whole like aura just through my voice. So I would do this in water, and that's where it would amplify it. So I was doing that. Then literally a few minutes later, family member kicks off. Now this was like an MK Ultra. Like, this was not normal. this person did not recognize me. And bearing in mind, I was going through a personal transition within myself. So in terms of my identity, I was even starting to see my identity and it didn't look human. So I was like, if that was something that they picked up, then I can understand why they would behave like that. But just the way that it all happened, it was like glitch. Like we both are glitching and seeing.
So your family member, you didn't recognize your family member,
no,
and
she didn't recognize me.
You said their eyes changed, and then when the officer came in, his eyes changed.
Right.
And there was like a snap of like an altered kind of personality that came in, or either a walk-in kind of situation where another aspect is taking over for the situation where that person is no longer conscious. And that's how you felt in that situation, which led you to them taking you to the mental ward.
Exactly. So that happened, and then I ended up getting carried there, got arrested whilst I was naked. And
but the thing is, your main thing, and I'm trying to get people to understand this as well, is it wasn't the altercation, it was the fact that you recognized the switch. You said, that is not my family member, and police officer, I don't know who or what you are, but you entities are in my house and I don't know what's going on. And that kind of like led to the frenzy of taking you away.
Exactly. It was, I can't even express it enough. It's like two completely different realities getting merged into one, like mixed messages. Like we both had two completely different experiences, to where even now we even still we express two completely different experiences of what happened.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, what the hell? And it's funny because they're starting to bring out these movies. There's one specific series they had that's going on in the UK, which is called The Capture. And I'm noticing that they're starting to use this theme in a lot of other movies, where in this specific series, they're using CCTV cameras, and you're seeing an event happen on a CCTV camera, but that's not the event that's actually happening. So there's literally two completely different realities getting merged into one, and they're like, this is a crazy conspiracy. I'm seeing this crime happen right now, but when you go there, they're not there.
Wait, it's not on camera, or what's on camera is not there?
What's on camera is not happening in real life.
What?
Right. So they're starting to even bring this into the narratives of movies, and I'm like, but this is exactly what I was experiencing.
Okay, yeah, and I'm finally watching The Killjoys, and super soldier MK Ultra programming, parts of their brain was cut and implanted to where at a certain point, at a certain trigger point, that super soldier would just snap, pupils dilate completely, and he's just somebody else with no recollection and no recollection of what he did. He eventually almost killed people, but he was trained to do that through the implant, through the brain, and through the MK Ultra programming that he was going through. And I see that going on a lot too. And it sounds extreme to some people, like, well, I'm not a part of military, I'm not a part of that, but like, sometimes you're a part of programs that you don't know that you're not a part of.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole point. And I think, I'm going to say this, I feel like that's the true journey of an astronaut.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's an initiation that you recognize when you recognize it. Mm-hmm. Because it's like you get brought into this programming. No one knows why. Why you're the perfect candidate. We don't know that, but you're brought into this program. You're raised in it. And there are memories implanted so that you think you had a specific childhood. You have handlers in your life that may seem like your parents, but they're really not. You don't know much about your past. You don't really have a memory about your childhood except for looping memories. And then all of a sudden, when shit starts breaking down, you get glyphs, you get images of you being like underground in a base, or you get images of you being MK Ultra, like 11 from Stranger Things, being used for your abilities. And but then they insert you back into the program living your regular life. So you're living like these alters and shit. And you don't know, one alter doesn't know the other alter, one personality doesn't know the other personality. But what's happening right now is that those barriers are coming down, and there's emergence of the personalities, which I feel like even symbolically with you ending up in a mental ward is kind of like a symbol of what that would look like for those who don't understand what's happening. So it's just your altered states are meeting each other. And you may say, oh my God, am I turning schizophrenic? I kind of even believe, because they say you get schizophrenia sometimes in like your 30s, like later in age. There's a reason for that, because it kind of sounds like a breakdown of programming.
Where you literally come against the program. That's
exactly
out of the program. Your Saturn return.
Personalities created, especially some women are used as like sex slaves. So they need an alter to create that. So, and I don't even think, and we're going to get into this conversation in a second, but when we talk about the astral plane versus the plane of reality that we experience in 3D, it's more of like, people think that you have to be abducted to have these experiences. No, you have a body, you have an astral body. And when you are conscious in that astral body, it feels just like this. So there's a version of you that may be a sex worker or a sex slave or having babies like Handmaid's Tale, but that's just a separated alter in that plane of reality, which kind of feels like the moon, if you believe, like that whole experience over there you're having. And then you kind of wake up and then you're back to your regular life again, or your other alter. And it feels like a dream, but it's another version. And I think people are not able to fathom other versions of themselves in other realities that are indeed, quote unquote, real to that version of yourself in that moment.
Well, here's the thing, talking about alternate realities, I had the past, present, and future all merging into one, and having to decipher each and every one of those experiences. And not only my own, my ancestors too, my parents, I'm literally aware of the pool of consciousness that is normally unconscious to us. Like, I became aware of the collective unconscious, and then had to learn how to process and navigate that.
It's not easy, because it does feel like the Truman Show. It does feel like you wake up into your character and every single person around you, down to the movies and shows you watch, speaking directly to you as if you are the only character in the goddamn movie called life.
Listen, let me tell you something. I was in the hospital, and I remember watching the news around this time. And around this time, this is when Brexit was just starting to take place. And so I remember watching the news, and I could have sworn to you, Jeremy Corbyn was talking directly to me, like through the TV. It's almost like he was trying to present his policies, but I was like, that's not gonna work. And this is where I started creating like these hand movements from in OA, when they were doing these hand movements. And then I'm talking to him, and he's like this is the he's talking like this is the policy. I can't remember exactly what was being said. Listen, there's so much that's happened for me to be able to remember verbatim everything that happened, but I just remember that exchange. And every time I watched the TV, I had to stop watching TV at a point, because I was like, it's getting too much. Like, everything that I was seeing was being shown on the TV, was being shown in my reality, people around me. It was like, is everyone in on this game? Like, is this?
Yeah, it's hard to explain when it's happening to you. It's the weirdest shit, but it's hard to explain, because people are like, well, you see similar things in programming all the time. What's the deal? No, this is a different kind. This is real, like straight up when Truman woke up and he knew that everyone was watching him, and he was programmed by script. That was a mind fuck, and that's what it feels like. So yeah, I get it. It's hard to explain though.
Yeah.
What I'm starting to see, and why I brought up subconscious language, is every single Hollywood movie, everything from love story to horror to sci-fi to all of the genres, they are all playing the same characters, the same 5 to 9 characters. And they are just rearranging or retelling it's basically the gods, what you would consider the gods having their dialogue out in the open through movie.
Yeah.
And it's like the dynasty airing their business out through Hollywood. So you got these main characters that are everywhere and including in your life. So then you start to match up with archetypes that you may be resonating with, that your loved one is, and so and so. And you're like, yo, I'm in the same movie and the same script as a goddamn movie I just watched. What kind of program is this?
It's so funny because it was like, I remember watching the TV, and just like you said, but I saw each person representing a bloodline or a species, or a race or whatever, but they were speaking for them. But it was like, one thing I became aware of in this whole glitch thing was literally how like everything is integrated, as above so below. Literally everything comes together. And so I've just lost my train of thought. I was just mentioning something. The integration. What was the last point I just said? I still got baby brain.
It's okay. It's we were coming down from like the characters, the movies, the archetypes.
Yeah, that's it.
Started beginning your point.
Yeah, so they all, it's like one person is representative of a species or a race or a thing, and it's like them playing this scene out is actually happening in real life. Like you see what
it's actually happening. Yeah.
Like it's actually happening in real life, and it's like a ritual that we're watching, and that they've made entertainment.
Yes, it's cloaked as the last thing that it is actually is entertainment. But one thing that I realize about life in general is that it is entertainment. So it's a double-edged sword. It's all about how you look at it. And I think that's what the secret order of Hollywood is. They don't want, of course they don't, when you're in the order, you can't express this. Like they kind of are owned in a sense. But being outside of that, that's just what it is. The gig is up. Like the gig is up. What was on last night, Peaky Blinders. I didn't realize how it's nothing but ritual. It's not even a show. It's not a regular show. Now to the regular person that is kind of like taking it at face value, it's cool. But like when you see who the characters really are representing, they are literally taking. So if you resonate with an archetype, let's say I know like a character in there that's playing like a Lilith, right? Her name in the series is I believe it's Polly. And so it's more of like let's say they're trying to get her or manipulate her into doing something, or telling her that something is going to happen, right? In that show, if someone watching the show happens to resonate on that Lilith frequency, it's almost like they're being pulled into the ritual that they're doing with Lilith on the show.
Right.
That's just an example. But you have to be able to subconsciously be the observer, and it takes practice. It's not about being afraid to watch things. It's about really sitting back and observing what's happening without getting involved or involving yourself in the storyline. It's important that we don't involve ourselves in the storylines that are being forced on our particular signatures of energy, because some of us do resonate at certain signatures that are being personified on these shows.
Definitely.
Yeah. So it's almost like an agreement that you would have And for some reason, the same characters always end up with the same fate. So right now, what's happening that I'm seeing is the Messiah is coming back. So everyone's preparing for Jesus or a Messiah of some sort. And it's seen everywhere, even in the whole court thing with the forgiveness, the 10-year sentence. That was an act of bringing Messiah back. Anytime Messiah,
hold on to that age of Pisces.
Trying to hold on to the age of Pisces, but they always use the Messiah when a new era is coming. That's just a marker. So we have enough of that, and we have the Terrence Howard, Lucid, sort of kind of Jesus transition as well. We got Kanye West, like you see it everywhere where it's shifting. But what they're doing now, because it's Aquarius, is that they're bringing the Luciferian energy more so integrated in the Messiah now. That's the only difference. So it seems more liberal.
Yeah.
It's more of a liberal Messiah. It's a different kind of Messiah energy, but it's still just a marker for the higher ups that they use for themselves for the system that they have running this world. So it's just a program. The Messiah program is a program because it's almost like it's a scapegoat for what's about to happen. So even when I'm watching Killjoy, there's this character who takes the pain of everyone else. So they have this whole clan use that they're in the mines underground and they endure everyone else's pain. So give me your pain, I'll take your sins. But it's just a scapegoat to kind of forward energies that may be off or sadistic or out of order to a specific being so that their paths are clear in order to do other things. So the Jesus program is literally a scapegoat for the motherfuckers that kind of like want to do the other things. So they have the sponge of sins, which is sick.
Yeah, no, that is literally like that Messiah program. That's what they are with all of this 5G energy. That's what you're going to be seeing a lot more. That's what they tried it with me. They tried to make me feel like I was some kind of Messiah so that I had to save the world, become the martyr again. And I'm like, no, that time is over. Like it couldn't run. It couldn't work.
Yeah, So if some people here resonate on Messiah energy signature, because that is a real spirit entity, that is a very a living energetic being, but that being is tortured. I don't think people understand how tortured this Yeshua, Jesus, Messiah character is in the actual realms of spirit. This spirit is actually feeling all of the pain, and he's acting as just that. This is why the creature in Stranger Things looks exactly like he looks, because he's collecting everyone's garbage. So your Messiah actually looks like a monster, and you don't even realize that, because all of your sins that you're giving to this energy that clearly it has to personify it somehow. So it's turning into your devil. So they don't realize that they turned their messiahs into the devil, because when you use energy to just pass on your sins without accountability as a human being, and we're going to talk about human integration, when you pass that on to just as if the Messiah is a garbage disposal for your shit, it's going to end up feeling, looking, and acting like shit.
Right.
People don't know how energy actually works. So, take all of my sins, Father. And it's just like, what? No, you take accountability of your own sins, if you want to call them sins. Like, what does that even mean? Sins just means a dip down in frequency. Oh, you dip down. Just get the fuck. I'm sorry. I'm trying to just get up. Like if you're sinning, which means that your wavelength is going down, come right back on up. That's all you need to do. Neutralize your frequency. You don't need to. Could you imagine if I came to you, Maitreya, and said, you know what? All of the traumas and everything that I've been through that has caused me to do things that have been hurtful to myself and others, I'm going to sit here and give it to you, Maitreya. Can you take it? You know what? I'm not even going to ask you. Oh, I feel so much better. Thank you, Maitreya. Praise you. Praise be. all you got to do is humanize it and see how ridiculous it is and see how much of a detriment it is to the whole system, to the natural order.
What fuels this whole anxiety consciousness thing, and even what fuels a lot of the spiritual leaders that are in the community, because they end up becoming that. You know, everyone comes to them like, you know, I need this, help me. And then this is actually why I'm not doing a lot of actual energetic healing, because I can't be taking that. You know, it's not my calling.
You have to have some serious boundaries.
Right.
Go into that work deeply.
Yeah, you know, so it was like, I can't do that, but this is what we end up making, we end up turning a lot of our leaders into this in itself, because of the pressures that we put onto them and the expectations that we have for them to be able to sort out our lives, but us not actually taking any accountability of being able to do it ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
So, how many times have I had a session and the expectation is that, you know, you have one session and this is like the full immersion it will probably be an immersion, but it will be an immersion to the point where you need to go and do something now. The session isn't the whole work. Like, what are you going to do after this session? What are you going to put into practice to make sure that you can maintain this momentum?
I spoke to someone today on the phone, a consultation, and she talked about how, you know, somebody told her someone put a spell on her, and how, you know, certain things were confirmed, certain prophecies were confirmed about her through her family and through readers and things like that. And she kind of was she was stuck at this point, and a lot of bad things started happening to her. And she's like, what do I do about this spell? And I was just like, first of all, I was just like, wait a second. The fact you don't know you don't know how powerful you are, in a sense where as soon as if someone speaks word over your life in prophecy and you accept that, you just locked yourself into someone else's storyline. And what I feel like is people are obsessed with prophecy because they want to feel special.
Yeah.
They don't realize that you are special. Like, you are like no one else. Just express that, okay? Express it and project it outward into the world and onto yourself. But people are looking to be validated and called special. So there are these prophecies created where in order to get to E, you got to go through A, B, C, and D to get to that prophecy. And sometimes it means you're going to have a fall on finances, or you're going to like go through this dark night of the soul. And you're speaking this over my life and I'm believing you. I actually don't have to go that route if I don't want to.
Exactly. And this is exactly with astrology. And as an astrologer, let me tell you, astrology is bullshit. Because everyone's expecting, you know, you see, you know, this is the transit for this time. Okay, oh, panic mode, this is going to happen to me. No, you have the power to actually transmute and alchemize these energies. These energies are not default. These energies are literally, I saw the picture that you put up with
I posted,
and the hands and the planets. It's literally it's playing puppets out here on you. Like this whole thing called the Galactic Federation of Light. It's a
Can we talk about that for a second?
Yeah, it's literally councils of energy, and this is one thing I became aware of in the glitch. Being an astrologer, I received everything as astrology messages, and I was like, why has everything become astrology? But I realized it was literally these whole puppet strings of these councils broadcasting their messages. Sorry?
I'm gonna pull up the picture as you're talking.
Yeah, they're literally broadcasting. Jupiter's trying to broadcast their message to me, whereas the moon's trying to broadcast their message to me, and then I'm getting confused, and I just need to be like, hold up, I'm gonna make my own message and decipher my own message and go my own path. It was just crazy. Like, you have to learn how to filter out a lot of these things that are being in these astral energies, whatever. It's a mess out there. So whilst you may feel, oh, I'm receiving something, be careful. You might be picking up on something, but you don't know what the hell you're picking up on.
Right. And don't be so quick to assign it to yourself. Right. Just because even, I don't care, an elder, a priest, a priestess, you don't have to assign anything to yourself. Let it sit at least. Does it resonate? You know, is this a path that you want to choose for yourself? So I feel like the whole prophecy thing is more so of making sure that people stick to the script, because that's what it is. That's what prophecy is. Once you understand the script, it's like reading the script to a movie. So once you understand the collective script, which all of the movies have in common, by the way, you understand the collective script, you can predict the future. You can learn, you know about the past, you can predict the future, you know exactly what's going to happen, when it's going to happen. It's not hard to prophesize once you tap into the actual storyline of, like, you know, what that collective storyline is for the Earthlings, right? Because we all have different storylines. I'm trying to, where is it? Oh, here it is. Hold on. Because I really want to get like a picture of this up, just because it may trigger some, you know, truths. So here it is. This is that picture here. And it's interesting because even in watching the show Helljoys, there are these 9 families that literally own 3 planets with 3 moons. And they use the moons to control the planets. And it's just 9 families that rule this entire, like, damn near an entire solar system. Like, just, you know, but it's if what's happening on the moon is just, it's kind of like the control center of the dream state, so that it acts out on that plane. So that satellite message, once you've kind of, because I feel like most of people travel to the moon when they're sleeping, and they're having a whole bunch of those kind of experiences. And it's not necessarily a physical travel. The moon in itself is like it's a base for frequency. So when you're tapped into that base of frequency, you have these experiences that now dictate, your subconscious is now dictating your worldly experience. So for instance, in that show, there's this planet that you would think of as Earth, which they call Westerly. And there's a moon that controls Westerly. But on that moon, it's shitty. Like, it's a shitty, people are fighting. It's really it's like they're having a bunch of sex, or they're fighting, or like they're like, it's dirty, or they're eating shit and they don't even realize they're eating shit. Like, it's that kind of thing. It's just gritty and like no one would really want to live there. But that's where the Westerlies go when they go to sleep. And the wealthy, they have their own moon, and then they have their own place they go to where only certain people are invited, and that's called Utopia. And they get to like have, you know, all the high-tech technologies, they get to experience them, they get to take certain psychedelics that are not available to others, they get to have all the freaky sex they want with anybody. So they have that base strictly for them that Westerlies cannot have access to. So when I'm thinking about these moon bases, it's a frequency that our subconscious, we're able to go to subconsciously. It's like, if we're not lucid dreaming, it's an automatic by default pulled into your moon. You're pulled into that base.
I feel what's coming to me when you're saying this is 440 hertz and 432 hertz. So the original frequency, which resonates with the frequency of the Earth, is 432 hertz, right? That is the frequency of love. And this was the frequency that music was actually set to originally. In fact, the saxophone is the only instrument that naturally holds that 432 resonance, which is why they called it the devil's horn, because it naturally resonates that frequency. Now, they changed it to 440 hertz, which is the music that we hear today. But in what that actually does to your body, it's actually it's destructive. It healing you. So rather than music supposing to heal you, which is what 432 Hertz, artists like Adele, she actually records through 432 Hertz, which is why a lot of people resonate with her music. It's like, oh, my heart, because she's speaking from the frequency of the earth, from the frequency of the heart. So this frequency, I feel like that relates to what you're talking about with regards to a different moon. Even when you look at rich people, they would play a lot of classical music, which is naturally in 432. But then we're left with the 440 hertz.
Yeah, which completely destroys the DNA.
Right.
Over time. It weakens the bonds, and they're kind of all over the place, which causes disease, literally, over time. So yes. Did you watch the Terrence Howard video?
Yeah, I did.
I just want to say, I don't know who and what Terrence Howard is. So I'm not claiming that he is anyone or the comeback or the return of someone, but he's definitely what someone said, he's probably just acting outside of his acting. Right?
It's all a stage.
All a stage, exactly. We're all acting. Just some people don't realize they're in the movie, so they're kind of like the extras until they start casting, right? But my thing is, I'm over here writing and producing and creating. I've retired that. I'm over here on the other side of everything.
Right.
If I want to star in my own movie, I will, but it will be my movie.
Right.
Exactly. But did you see the animated cartoon Coco with the ancestors?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay, I just saw that.
Oh wow.
And I was just like, hold on. So at the end of the day, the guy who originally came up with the music, his partner killed him, poisoned him, took his music and took his picture, because on the other side, you needed a picture to validate yourself to come through during the Day of the Dead for the ancestors. So he stole his face, he stole his identity, and he stole his music. And at the end of the day, the original form was being forgotten about because no one knew who the original musician was who came up with this music that everyone loves, which again, in turn, takes me back to that upside down Saturn, Satan, to right side up Saturn, Satan, where Lucifer, Satan, that's music. That's music right there. It's that essence rules through music, through sound. And the fact that we talk about even the mythologies of Set and Osiris, or Asar, he killed his brother and he wore his face to be king. Like, he pretended to be him when he wasn't, so there's this whole taking the divine masculine who plays beautiful music and you wear that mask and you sing his songs, but you're not coming with the same similar original intention as true divine father. You know what I'm saying? So he's emerging again, but you don't know who's wearing a mask and who's actually showcasing and expressing that original essence of divine father that is coming to surface now.
Yeah, I literally thought, and I spoke to you about some of this before we came live, with regards to how I'm seeing Lucifer and God with this whole flip. Because even in Gnostic thought, God will be the devil and the devil would be man. So if we're calling the devil man, we're actually hating ourselves. But in regards to Lucifer, so Lucifer would be Lucy, the original, and also the feminine counterpart of what God was. Now Lucifer, he was the sound bearer. He was full up of pipes, of all of these beautiful gems, of everything beautiful you could think of. Lucifer was literally, he was the musical director of heaven, right? So he was the orchestrator of sound. So when you look at God being the light,
you mean like Jehovah, that Yahweh?
Right.
kind of situation. Mm-hmm.
Right, but it also, as you was talking about with Saturn and stuff, that is literally the battle between Saturn and the sun. Saturn being the original sun, but this sun taking a shine like it's been there the whole time.
Yes, so thank you for bringing that up, because even in the storyline of Coco, the matriarch of the family, who started the whole thing, this whole time she held resentment towards her husband, because she thought this whole time that he walked out on the family when his partner killed him.
Right.
So it shows the divine feminine's resentment toward a lie.
Right.
And the manipulation of the Satan that comes in, and Lilith, she turns into Lilith eventually, because she's no longer in tune with the original aspect of her counterpart nor herself. So she completely loses it. So then you see generations in Coco where they completely are banned from listening to music. So she completely stepped away from her entire being of truth, and they ended up making shoes. So what I see as shoes being symbolic is like the body. It's like because they were actually supplying bodies for the Day of the Dead, not realizing that that's what she was doing. So on the other side, the false Lucifer, the false Satan on the other side, who was wearing the mask of the original, he was in the spirit realm while she was in charge of the living world. So she provides the shoes, he provides the souls. So there's this exchange in Coco that people are probably not tapping into necessarily outside of the regular storyline, that every time the Day of the Dead comes, there are the souls that come through, and it's like it's like being a car salesman. So here's a body. What soul you got? Do you have enough offerings? Right. Are you wealthy on that other side? Well, I got a good body for you. I got a good pair of shoes for you, ma'am. So then these spirits get to experience a body. That's what it really is about. It's the ancestors coming back, not just being with their family, but actually living as. It's possession. It's possession. But if the possession is happening on a sly that's not original to your true essence of family, and somebody else is kind of sneaking through that portal and kind of well, I bought these shoes from Lilith, so I'm wearing these shoes. And it's just but these are my shoes. So this is why it's so important for divine feminine, divine masculine to get back to the original order of things. That's what I'm here for. I'm not here to judge either side. Shit happens, but at this point, we cannot go on without getting back to the original form.
Stop going around in circles. That itself is that Piscean age. It's the constant going around in circles and not actually jumping out of that loop. How have you not noticed? How can you not notice? Keep going around it, just keep going around in a circle. How do you not notice that?
Yeah. And then they got us good because they have us afraid of certain names now and certain energies. So the reprogramming and the wiping of the old paradigm is not easy for a lot of people because of that, but I don't know if you wanted to kind of now talk about integration and anxiety consciousness and the obsession with wanting to be better and then who and what you are, no appreciation for self, just reaching for higher realms of self that you seem to always be on the chase for, and eventually leaving your body so far from your body that your human self kind of disintegrates or becomes depressed and compressed and suppressed because there's a part of your mind that's trying to ascend so badly that you're forgetting about living this human experience. So maybe that's also kind of leaving people's bodies open as well, shoes for sale. So maybe you want to start talking about that.
Who's in your body?
That's what people are doing. They're leaving their bodies. I don't want to be here on Earth anymore. Being human sucks.
Right.
I'm ascending. The beings are coming to get me, and I'm going to the new Earth. I'm leaving. And that whole narrative has led us to no one wanting to be human anymore.
Yeah, and it's funny because remember in Carol and Tuesday, the anime series, did you watch it?
Yes, I did. I watched it.
So when they've got to the point and they're like, Ascension, they are literally mocking us because while we're talking about Ascension.
And she was having nightmares from that. Ascension. They were trolling. I was just like, okay, they got it. You know, humans are so simple sometimes. Everything you need and everything you have is right here. It's inside of you. It's surrounding you. You just don't see it because there are programs that are telling you to go elsewhere to go get it. And you don't need to go get your higher self
anywhere. And I think this was so important for me because this is something that I've been mulling over for the last year or so. It's been something that's been coming through to me because I've noticed that I've always been on the outskirts of the community, of the spiritual and conscious community, if that's what you can even call it. But I've always been on the outskirts. And so it's like, I see certain things and I'm like, okay, that's how they say it's supposed to be done. But I'm like, I want to do it this way. Why do I have to assimilate to how you say this ascension journey is supposed to go when this is what I feel that's more natural? And I first started noticing this with like grounding meditations because I started, like, when I started researching like grounding and stuff, they'd always teach you to kind of bring your energy up. But I was like, that doesn't feel natural to me. It feels natural to go down, just like gravity. Everything goes down. So while we're talking about, and this is how we even get trapped in this whole upside down, forgetting that our eyes actually receive things
upside down.
But we're having to flip it back to make it make sense.
It's like,
but that's not the truth. That's the illusion. So it's a thing where it's like the ascension journey is or what is called the ascension journey. It's actually going away. It's actually operating against nature, because as I said, if everything naturally goes down, why are we going up? Or if you do go up, it's only to go up temporarily because you came to Earth. You didn't come to the astrals. You come from the astrals.
Right.
So,
right.
Right. So it's a thing where everyone is focusing on their higher chakras. We've already got this on point. What we don't have on point is our lower chakras, our solar plexus, our sacral chakra, and our root chakra. That's what we need to be focusing on.
Barely the heart. The heart is kind of like, because the heart is the boundary between both realms.
Right.
So when this is not straight, there's like, it's not a great filter system for knowing when to go up and when to go down.
If your heart is not there, because it is the gateway. So you can't communicate your higher self to your human body, or vice versa. You can't have a conversation. There's a blockage.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, even when people are, when we look at creatures who are able to fly, they still have to land somewhere. Nothing, at least at what we can see and within this small light spectrum, nothing lives in the air. They fly temporarily, but they still come down.
Exactly.
At the end of the day, even the hawk, he still has to land somewhere. He's not flying and hovering in midair. He's coming down eventually.
And this is why I say that you go up to remember and you come down to integrate.
I like that.
You're not staying up there. You don't need to stay up there. You only go up there, almost like how people use ayahuasca or any other kind of plant medicine, for it to be like a catalyst to open you up to this realm. But you're not meant to be staying in there. Like, why are you staying in there?
You know what it's synonymous to? It's like going to the library and locking yourself in the library while everybody else is outside living, and you're reading about life instead of living. So you're reading all of the books, all of the great minds and the ancients, and you're just in your fucking library, in your Akashic records. And meanwhile, life is passing you by, literally. Your body's wide open. You're just out there roaming about, because you know how, these whole conversations about non-player characters, NPCs. It's so funny how people kind of like are condescending towards that aspect of, if this were to be a simulation, you would have non-player characters who are just programs. They're not really conscious. But for someone who's locked in the Akashic record library, who has a body walking around outside of the library, you're kind of like NPC level too in your life. Right. So your finances, your job, your career, your family, neglect. What are you consciously doing on a human level while you're over here reading the ancient texts, or while you're over here going into your spiritual realms and trying to retrieve or go higher and never intending to bring it down?
Right. And this is the thing, because again, it's and this is what I was saying to you about, like, where we put a lot of focus, and I don't actually agree with any sort of transcendental meditation anymore, any type of Kundalini awakenings, anything that forces you to come into an altered state, but not naturally. It's not to say that you can't enter these states, but I think states are meant to be entered in naturally. If you actually look at the studies of people who are doing meditation, transcendental meditations and Kundalini awakenings, a lot of them are damaging themselves mentally and physically, but they don't like to present a lot of this information. But then this whole new age movement is taking over the whole world now, and people are being exposed to this information, not realizing that the more that you start to engage in these types of practices, you are actually killing yourself, and you're putting yourself in the perfect position to be walking dead, because you're not in your body. You are away from it. So anyone can come snatch up your body, because you're not there. You're not holding legal residence.
You're busy looking for utopia in a place that is it's your mind. Mostly you kind of think it's spirit, but it's, spirit's kind of pushing you back down to your body, while your ego mind is pushing you, trying to get you back up there into the library, poking around, so yeah.
That's what creates this whole anxiety consciousness, because you would think that you're creating all of these streams of consciousness that make sense, but it's actually your anxiety taking you places further and further away from your body, and you still have, and like you said, your physical responsibilities are not in place. A lot of spiritual people are struggling with their financial stability, their ability to hold healthy connections with people, relationships. Why are a lot of us struggling in our relationships, being able to take care of our personal responsibilities? But you can spend so much time on YouTube or whatever doing in realms that we actually are only supposed to be spending a minute amount of our time in. Why did you come to the third dimension? To get stuck back up in the astrals again?
Oh, you don't want to get caught up in the astrals, because that's what's happening. And you get stuck in there. You get stuck in the in-between, and that's purgatory.
Right.
That's purgatory. So,
and I feel like this is what this whole it's an agenda to push everyone naturally into purgatory, which is what that whole black moon thing is. They're killing people by allowing people to kill themselves. Do you get what I mean?
They're killing people to allow people to kill themselves.
Yeah. So it's like with the black moon,
the shadow of the moon.
So there was the woman Lilith. She's going around killing everyone. But who was it that was like, no, this is supposed to happen. This is what's meant to happen. But it's like people killing themselves because they can't expose themselves to that reality, like that whole realm, which is why they just die and the blood just comes out of their eyes and everything. So what they're doing is allowing people to kill themselves by going into all of these transcendental things by itself, separating themselves from their body, killing themselves. We don't need to do it. It's population control for itself. This whole Ascension New Age movement, it's population control.
Oh yeah, and it makes you vulnerable and open, which is a beautiful thing, you know, but when there are no boundaries, yet again, it just because your innocent and pure intent is there doesn't mean that there are wolves out here up in these streets. Wolves are not domesticated. Wolves are not circus animals. They can domesticate a lion, but they can never domesticate a wolf. A wolf will not work for anyone. He is an independent contractor, and they'll work for you if they feel like it. Okay. So I'm a lion. Okay, but lions have still kind of like, you know what I'm saying? That feline, that feminine energy, and the wolves out there, you know, you never know which side they're playing for, because they're kind of like, whoever's paying me the most, whoever's giving me what I need, you know, I'm here, but I'm not loyal because I'm a wolf. Dogs are loyal.
Yeah.
So you got, and so that's why they're kind of like with the tricksters, in a sense, in essence, when you come across a wolf, you know, it's kind of like that archetype will definitely protect you, will do what you need, but as long as it's a mutual beneficial relationship.
Yeah.
You know, so when you're dealing with wolves out there of people, once that mutual beneficial situation dies, someone else, you know, gets them, and they kind of now go against you. So there are wolves out here in these streets, these streets.
There's something else that I wrote something relating to this whole disconnecting thing that I wanted to read out, and there's being separate from the body, or what we call, I can't even read what I said because I did it quickly, but being separate from the body is what we call, or disconnecting from ourselves is also disconnecting from ourselves, because we're going back on what we've already done, on wiring DNA that's already been wired. We're here to expand a spiral onto new experiences, not repeated experiences. So what ends up happening when we're trying to separate ourselves and go into all of these and get stuck in the astrals, what we do is we almost unravel our DNA, because it doesn't have the ability to expand and evolve. Because this is a new experience we're supposed to be experiencing on Earth. We come to the third dimension of ourselves to experience this third dimension, but if you're not actually integrating into it, that's a part of your strand that's not been able to develop. That's a part of your memory that you're not able to access. So we're almost doing things wrong, because you think, oh, we need to go up there to get your memory. No, you need to, what you notice that when you're doing stuff, that's when things actually come to you. Not when you're actually escaping from yourself. So this whole thing is about integration and allowing yourself to live. And this is why, like, I feel like the devil is just a flip of lived in itself, because you're actually demonizing this whole physical existence, just like how they did with the slaves, because they had, and what I said to you before about I really feel like the chakras are supposed to be upside down. So the crown is actually the root, and the root is actually the crown. Because when you look at how they even deceived the Christians or the slaves into Christianity, was this deception of heaven, which is somewhere that you always expect to get to, but you'll never experience within your physical reality. So what they sell you this whole thing of, okay, heaven, astrals, have spirit, anything outside of your spirit, you can't experience life like this, but you can have it when you cross over, when you die. So you can never live that here. So
you're making all of the sacrifices, being a good girl or a good boy, and when you die, then that's when you'll start to really live.
Right. So then a lot of us don't even like this third dimension, because we want to escape. We so quickly want to be able to die, whether we affirm that or not, because you're not actually allowing yourself to experience this. You're almost waiting for the day to die, because you're like, okay, that's when I'll be free. But have you ever experienced death to know that's even freedom? Why did you come here? We've already come from there.
Well, there are some people who feel like they've been forced here, recycled here. They believe that this is a prison planet and so on. And I do feel like there's a lot of misconception in that. as well. And I figured that out just on my own. I'm just like, no one's holding, like, I'm here and there are programs that surround me, but I'm breaking the programs. And once you break the programs and you transcend and you start to become your own author and writer and creator in life, like none of this shit, I don't care who the fuck, I don't care who's in the office. Like, it literally does not affect me. Okay, so I don't live in that paradigm anymore. And people get upset with you. Like, what do you mean you didn't vote? You're the problem. And it's just like, no, you're living in that paradigm. So you're concerned with those issues. I'm not. You know, they say it's go through a recession, but I'm okay. So I'm fine. That's not my paradigm. Sorry. So don't pull me into your world. I've transcended it. Doesn't mean I'm better than, because we get caught up in hierarchies as soon as, you know, oh, she's too good or she thinks she's this. It's just like, no, I've just extended beyond the program a little something, and I still got more layers to go through. But to me, that is the adventure. It's the adventure. Yes, of course. What I'm learning more and more is that I've become less paranoid and more entertained by life.
Yeah.
And to me, that's the whole point. Because even could you? I was reading this book and they were saying that give humanity 2 weeks of perfection and utopia, they'll be dying to like do something that is outside of that realm. Humans don't want peace. Peace is the game. Peace is a part of the game that doesn't exist. So how are you going to navigate through this chess game? Because you always going to have to king somebody. This realm is the game of duality and polarities. So you came here to play. Why aren't you playing? You know, so when you consider yourself a victim or a prisoner of your environment, then you will be a victim and a prisoner of your environment. And that's how the game rolls. There are some people who have a heads up. They've grown up in families where they know what the deal is. They learn the secrets and the orders of things, and they're on the other side of the veil every now and then. But okay, you came in as a player, you start waking up in the game and you're like, okay, I get it though. So now I'm on your level.
Yeah.
I got here because I'm a good gamer.
Right.
That's why.
Seriously. There's something else as well that I mentioned to you that I did want to bring up, because I've noticed it a lot within the community of us just becoming these little spiritual germaphobes, which also restricts our experiences.
Okay.
So, where it's like, you know, you'll see someone around you who you feel like doesn't really resonate with your frequency. You automatically see it, and then it's like, no, I can't be around them. They can't be around my energy. Like I have to protect myself. You know, like you're. It's almost like we put ourselves in superior positions over people. And it's not to say that you don't need to protect your energy, but let's not be so kind of like, you know, we can't even, we're quick to notice the shadows in other people, but not actually recognize the shadows within ourselves. So we don't actually have any compassion for any of our humanity. So we've put our consciousness in somewhere that doesn't allow us to be able to relate with anything on this physical dimension. We've ascended to this God consciousness. We've ascended to this alien consciousness. You know, this is what I was saying. Like, everyone wants to be a god or an alien. No one wants to be human. So
it's not cool to be an earthling.
Right. It's like, no, this is actually amazing. The moment I started really embracing my physical reality and started to actually integrate into everything I was running away from, let's be real, because that's what our humanity is, everything that we like to run away from. And I just realized just the experience that I opened myself up to. Like I blocked myself up so much just by thinking in such a linear way. This is linear.
Yeah.
Like, you know, it doesn't give room for circles and spirals. It's just up. So it's like,
and then if you fall down, oh my God, you know, you're the fallen angel now. So
right. You know, when even the whole thing of the fallen angel is just upside down, because I literally just been researching into this whole Lucifer thing again recently, and it's like that Lucifer was a prisoner in heaven along with all of these other angels that was there. This is why I don't deal with this whole angel entity business that people want to be. These are prisoners.
Angels, and Martin Kenny we even say the same. Angles, they're just angles.
Right.
Angles are straight lines.
Mm-hmm.
Towers, correct? Straight.
Right.
Angels are angles.
Mm-hmm.
So
right.
the measurements are a little off when it comes to this thing called natural life.
Exactly. So it's like, but I saw Lucifer being able to come to earth, and then this rebellion of these other fallen angels, they wasn't able to have their sovereignty in heaven because they were under the shadow of this other god that was trying to steal their light. He was stealing Lucifer's light because Lucifer was the one who had all of these gifts and all of this beauty and the sound, but then this god is trying to portray like it's him, like he has it, when all he's doing is reflecting the light, is having Lucifer reflect his light to make it look like it's him. But this is why Lucifer came out of heaven, because it's like, no, I'm setting up my own domain. Okay, seeing as how I can't have it here, let me go and set up my own thing. Come on, guys, like let's go to Earth. This is our dimension,
and let's go play.
Right.
And that's why, you know, and again, even we're still not truly evolved yet to a point where you're able to talk like this openly in public and people don't kind of side eye you like, oh my God, is she like Luciferian? Is she like, and what people don't even understand is that even with the whole Satan thing, Satan and Lucifer is, we had this conversation plenty of times, but they're not the same. They're not the same at all, or those energies are not the same when we're referring to those energies. One is light, okay? One is light. And I remember you broke down the word Lucy, and then, or Lu, and then cipher. So even like understanding even the lock-in or the coding, because cipher is coding, coding that light and creating an illusion of what you want people to see. So being Luciferian is more so of becoming the coder in your own form of light and projecting what you want people to see.
Right.
And some people utilize those lights to manipulate masses, and some people actually use that light as art. Right. You know, and actually living authentically with their ciphers in their light, the loose ciphers. So I mean, it's we all play with light, you know, but some people are not ciphering or creating the coding for that. So we're just accepting the outward puppetry of what the lights are being used for, you know, the light show. So it's not about being afraid of it. It's just like, again, it all comes to ownership. And that's a Luciferian philosophy. But I mean, what do you want me to do? Not own myself? Right. Not like claim authority over myself? So you want me to like call upon a name to do so? Instead of me actually consulting with me? It's just like, I don't understand. Like, I can't compute how that's such a bad thing to actually express my uniqueness, because that is what I'm here to do. Why am I here to be like you? That's not what I'm here for. This is not a holding cell just to pass time.
Right.
So it's really about liberation. But when I was talking about archetypes, what I've saw myself associate with is that archetype of Lady Liberty, Lady Freya, Auset, Isis, those kind of archetypes, Harriet Tubman spirit. I'm always in that mode of like I'm always like I feel like I'm heretic energy. I'm always like the heretic. I'm just like, let's just do our own thing. Like, this shit, you know, kind of like that, but not to rebel just to rebel, but like, no, there's more over there, y'all. You know, so then creating a path to like help bring and usher people in. But what I realized in I watched the Ad Astra with Brad Pitt, and there was this woman who happened to have a shaved head, by the way, short hair, kind of like how I saw in my dream. Her role And I hope they make a movie with her being the star, because she would be parallel to Brad's character. Right. And he basically was bringing people or the astronauts in, or ushering them into the next part of their mission. And every time she got to the doors after ushering people in, they said, oh no, you're not authorized for this mission, so go back. So even though she creates the portal or the opening, she can never be free so the Harriet Tubman fever, which is another spell that needs to be broken. Okay, because people, here's the thing with Harriet Tubman, we like, oh yay, Harriet Tubman, she's another form of a female martyr. Okay, that's not what we want. No more martyrism. We don't need to be martyrs and take on everybody else's stuff, while this particular energy has to like sit in hardship all the time. Right. So this, even with Statue of Liberty, allowing people to go through that portal, but it's like the Statue of Liberty is just standing there watching everybody else live in the land of milk and honey, and she's just like being used for her portal, for her ability to usher people in and out. And I brought that to myself, and I said, no, I'm not doing that shit anymore, because I do that naturally. That's like a natural ability for me. I create platforms and portals, transport people to different states of consciousness and other parts. But then when I'm left depleted, I'm Harriet Tubman myself, in a way where I'm being the bridge for everybody else, but I'm not getting a piece of what it is that I see from my vision.
Everyone else can walk over you as the bridge, but then what happens to the bridge?
What happens to the bridge? So when the bridge starts breaking, or that Statue of Liberty kind of falls down, then it's a problem, because, the bridge is gone, the bridge. So, and even when we're talking about music, the bridge in the song does a very different thing from the verse to the chorus. So it's all pieces working together. But what I feel is like, I'm a part of rearranging the song, just writing a new song.
Yeah,
we've been singing the same song for I don't know how long. We've been looping this song, the same storyline. And that's just my thing, is just changing it. What's wrong with changing it? I know I'm going off on a thing, but I just, people are so afraid of uncharted territory and creating stuff.
And this is the thing, because it's the fear of the unknown. It's because we want to be able to have control. We want to be able to know what's going to happen, how it's going to happen, who's going to be involved, all of this kind of stuff. Am I going to be able to control myself? It's always having control. Like, it's our anxiety to always have control. That's the problem, because if we relinquish our need for control, going into these uncharted territories wouldn't even be an issue, because we're allowing ourselves to flow.
Yeah.
Because we want to be able to structure things and be like, no, I want to make sure I can control my experience.
How did we get there? So when we were talking about like the rulers, right, in a sense, who put themselves in these high positions to call authority on everyone's like experience here, what is your take on this whole forcing hand upon natural order kind of thing? Where does that come from? Is it a species thing? Or is it an AI thing? Or is it like just a state of consciousness? It just is what it is in the natural order of things. We need that component in order to experience life.
Oh, so you're saying that there is just an almost like predestined reality?
Yeah, in a sense, is it necessary? Do we, like, it's almost like having the perfect adversary for the best movie ever. Mm-hmm. So you need a great opponent or a great enemy or a crescendo or a peak in the movie that keeps you on your toes. And when you have a great enemy to fight, it makes it all the more interesting and purposeful. Is that a part of nature's plan, is to have these characters that are artificially, kind of like AI based, super patriarchal, straight line versus circles and shit. Like, is that just her plan? Is that mother's tricks?
I feel that it's a manipulation, but it's not always bad, if that makes sense. I feel like it is order, but it isn't at the same time. It's almost like they can put something in to make it look like it's order, but it's actually being fueled by a different source.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like, yeah, because I feel like it's a program. I feel like it doesn't need to take all of that, but because of the amount of programs we have going on, it takes that to be able to wake us up.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I just feel that it's I feel like it's a mixture of both. I don't really know, like, I'm still trying to understand like the angle of what your art.
Is this it's because again, when you bring it back to movies, it's kind of like this character Brad Pitt again, and I think Leonardo DiCaprio in the Hollywood movie that they did, which is very occult, by the way. They were kind of sharing secrets of Hollywood without really sharing. But Leonardo DiCaprio, he went into character with this girl that he met, this little girl, and he had to be really, really mean to her, and he had to like push her down. And then when they were done from the scene, he apologized. He said, I was just acting right. I'm so sorry I pushed you, but I just had to do that because that was my role. Yeah, we're good. She's like, yeah, I wore knee pads because I knew this is what my character had to do. She had to be pushed down by you. I get it. It's a part of the script. That was a great read, by the way. She was like, that's the best acting I've ever seen. So at the end of it all, is it just one big show where it's just like, at the end of it, even your enemy is kind of like, that was a good play.
Yeah.
like now we can go have dinner and celebrate. Yeah. But you played a shitty character in my story, but like, what is this? It's this essence of art that's associated with life that I'm like kind of tapping into, getting past the paranoid stage, because I think we all go through stages of paranoia when we start feeling trapped in life.
Yeah.
In unraveling the matrix. But at the end of it, it's kind of like, oh, we're all kind of playing our part. So it's really up to are you going to be a star? Are you going to be a extra? Are you going to be a writer? Are you going to be an observer who doesn't even play in the movie? You're just watching everybody else live. Like, what are we doing here?
It's funny because going back to the whole glitch experience, that's something that I became aware of, because again, it felt like all of these doctors, everyone around me was just playing a role, but they also knew how it was going to turn out. So this is what was kind of throwing me off, because I'm like, it's almost like you're against me, but you're also for me at the same time. And it's like, this is some weird shit. Like, someone let me know what the hell's going on here, please. Like, so it's almost like, I feel it's a mixture of both, but again, I feel like it's once you understand the algorithms, you have the ability to be able to create a whole different experience. I think it's just about learning to observe rather than absorb the experience. Take note of the algorithms so that you know how algorithms work, so that you can create your own. Like,
now that you're talking about that brings me to the competitive aspect of it, because there's one particular set that rules that part of life, which is the programming in itself and the algorithms. And it's like, when you start disrupting that though, and you start really being creator up in this piece, and you start putting out new results for creating new algorithms that disturbs that ripple, then that's kind of when you get agent activity. And it's we're not here to change the story. So if you're not going to participate in our story, then we need to reset you. We need to wipe your memories. We need to do some weird shit to you so that you can like get back to you know, being a good old actress, you know, instead of like trying to disturb the entire industry. They don't want industries to be disturbed, whether it's because what you're saying, Maitreya, disturbs, you know how many people make their money from like dangling carrots spiritually in front of people's faces and saying, you need this, you need that. And even with the client that I was speaking to today, she was like, the man said, you gotta pay me and I'll say these prayers for you and then I'll get rid of the spell. And then he brought her somewhere else. And then the other guy said, well, now I have new prayers and you have to pay me. And even more than what you paid him. And she was just going through this rabbit hole of like the dangling of the carrot, and they take advantage of people like that. So when we're over here talking about self-empowerment and, you know, getting back to becoming that true creator, that takes a lot of money out of people's pockets when you start empowering people.
Do you know what it is? Especially when it comes to people, like anyone who is not even allowing you to recognize the power that you have within yourself, that's not someone that you need to be working with.
I told her that.
Someone who's working off this God consciousness that wants to be able to work like, I have something higher than you. No one has anything higher than anyone. Some people can master certain things, but it doesn't mean to say that you're higher than anyone. You're still a human being. So it's like, I feel that gravitate more to people who allow you to see your own power and allow you to have the tools to empower yourself.
Right.
Because if you don't, you'll forever be leeching onto that person and taking from their source, not even if their source isn't credible or not.
But I'm gonna play devil's advocate here. You like to play devil's advocate. Now, do you feel that there are people though that absolutely, no matter what you tell them, they want to be told what to do? So therefore, there are businesses out there that can serve those people. It may seem a little manipulative, but those people clearly want to be manipulated because they want something to believe in other than themselves.
Yeah.
So are we kind of like, we don't want like, oh, I can't knock the hustle either at the same time, because if there's a market for it, if that's your thing, then go.
Hate the player, hate the game, innit? It's just how it is. There has to be duality at some point.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just not what I resonate in. It's just not.
It's not what I resonate with either. Over here, mind my business. Don't want to go over here on that side and like be manipulated and be, you know, taught to be super dependent on spirituality in a sense where it's like all external. Then
the thing is,
right ahead and spend your money over there.
There's a new trick to it though, and I'm telling you, the more that I'm getting into this whole self-help industry, is the more that I'm hating it, and the more that I'm just like,
what is your pet peeve? Because I know you made a personal video on your YouTube channel about it, about the spiritual community needs an enema. Like, what is your pet peeve with the community, online community within itself that you want to bring and highlight? And maybe we can kind of like recalibrate on what it is that you're saying.
It's the perpetual deception and deliberate deception, knowing that people are vulnerable and you're just playing on people's vulnerabilities. You know that people don't have certain information, so you'll use that as like a weapon to hook them on and then keep them like almost like a heroin addict, keep coming for more, but you're not actually empowering them with anything. You're just empowering them with treats for them to keep coming back to you. And it's like, I think one of my biggest pet peeves is the fact that the majority of the people in this industry are really not about what they're saying they're about. Because, and it shows, because there is no mastery of yourself. Like, there is no mastery of your own shadows. I'm seeing so much projections going on, but no one actually taking accountability for the source of those projections. It's like everyone has the words to say, but no one's actually doing the work to actually keep up with it. Do you know what I mean? And it's like, it becomes more apparent when you start to meet these people in real life. You know, online, everyone can show a great picture or an illusion of themselves. Yeah. But when you start to meet them and you're like, but this isn't what I'm seeing. Like, why can't we just actually be authentic versions of ourselves? And I think it's just the lack of authenticity, the lack of truth, the lack of accountability, the lack of again, it's just the philosophies that are being presented are actually highly destructive. Like this whole twin flame thing. I'm sorry, we need to just throw that out with the bathwater, because it's like, whilst everyone's trying to be in this life seeking out their twin flame, you're actually, that's a codependent complex you have going on, that you feel that you need to have some kind of attachment to someone. And it doesn't need to say to take away, because we are human beings. We want to be able to have human connections with people and whatever. But when you feel that there's this ultimate person that is in this life that you'll probably never meet, and you're putting all of your energy on trying to meet this person and if you see glimpses of them, you'll manipulate your own life to fit with the narrative of who you think is your twin flame, when really this thing is not third dimensional in itself. And we've got so much illusions just running around in the community that's actually perpetuating more mental health conditions. Because like with everyone who's seeking their twin flame, there's clearly issues, abandonment issues, neglect, all of this kind of stuff, but no one's actually giving you the tools to effectively deal with that, but giving you cover-ups and giving you twin flames and stuff to be able to fuel that anxiety in yourself. And I feel that it's not a movement predicated in truth, and it's where a lot of stuff starts up on the right foot with the right intentions. So are
you feeling like the twin flame thing speaks to a certain type of person that is easy to catch because of their mental state and the things that they've been through, and it's just a scapegoat? Or feeling purposeful and having this journey and feeling fulfilled at some point when you find the end game?
Right. I feel like it's just another plaster and cover up, and then when it all gets taken off, you realize it just all blows back in your face, and you're like, why? I thought that was my twin flame. But it was a deception.
So it's the twin flame thing in general. It's not what's being projected about it, or like, do you not twin flame in general, like how you feel about being connected to another part of yourself that is extremely magnetic, or it's kind of just like, nope, all of it is just...
No, it's how it's being presented. I've had twin flame experiences, but not in a third dimension reality. Like it's been beyond. And I feel like that's where it's supposed to be. It's not something that is in this third dimension. And in fact, astrologically, it's not even possible to be able to have someone with the exact same alignments as you, even if you're a twin. So it's like, I feel like the closest you can get to twin flames is if you are an actual twin, because there's something, you're almost like a split soul that's in a body, and you're both having to learn the same lessons and stuff like that. I feel like that's probably the closest you can get to a twin flame, but the type of twin flames that is being presented right now is not what it's really about. And it's almost given the illusion that there's only one person that you can connect with, and there's multiple people that you can connect with. And I feel like what we're doing is mistaking a lot of twin flames for soulmates, which can come in the category of many different people. Not even only just your lover. I mean, I truly do believe that my brother could even be classed as a twin flame, like if that's what it is. And like, he's not my lover. He's never going to be a lover. And I don't think we've ever had a loving relationship in any lifetime. But I definitely feel that we have a very magnetic energy that complements each other. But it's just not meant to be playing out in this third dimension like that.
Wow. Very interesting.
So this is just my perspective. Like, I'm not here to kind of shit on anyone else's parade.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
yeah, I just feel that I'm that person that looks between the in-betweens, and I like to play devil's advocate. And I whenever something's being presented, I always am like, what is not being presented to me?
Yeah, I'm like that too.
Yeah.
I love playing devil's advocate, trying to see as many sides as I can, you know, and it kind of allows you to experience other sides as well, so that you can gain that wisdom through experiences or through those perspectives every now and then. So, you know, we don't have to go choosing sides.
Right.
You know.
And the experience that I actually did have with my twin flame, I remember him specifically saying, don't attach to the energy because it's not what you think it is.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what kind of started to allow me to, because I would have got lost in it. It's the type of energy that you feel, you would equate that to like a type of loving, that you need to be in that type of relationship. But I just had to respect it for what it was in that dimension. Like, and just let whatever be and not hold on to it, because the holding on, trying to figure out, oh my gosh, is this my twin flame? Is it not? It's not. Like, that's what creates the anxiety, and that's what creates like the mental health conditions that you can't actually separate from, because the spirituality is supposed to be something that helps you. But if you're being presented information that is destructive and is harmful and is not actually being presented with the right intentions, what do you do with it?
Mm-hmm. So you've been intertwining mental health and spirituality a lot, which I don't hear a lot of people talk about. There's a write-off with one or the other, you know. So if this is not mental health, this is a spiritual thing. This is not a spiritual thing, this is a mental thing. We're going back and forth, but you're saying that one supports the other, or one can completely be destructive to the other.
Literally, they are both the same thing, but on different sides of the spectrum. You know, one is more connected to the humanity integration aspect of things, and one is literally just the beyond, the astral, like the what is beyond the physical, the metaphysical. So you can't separate one from the other. They both coincide, but it's just about understanding how the mental health industry in itself has distorted that in itself, of how they even play out and what they even mean. Even like schizophrenia or psychosis, which is what they try to label me with. But if I have the ability to see, does that mean that I'm crazy? I have like psychosis.
Yeah, because I felt like if they were to take me in, that's what I would be diagnosed
right
with. Yes, she's suffering, number one.
Right.
She's suffering from psychosis. Okay, I think we all kind of are in this earthly thing. You don't know whether we're in a fucking simulation or not. You get to call me psychosis.
No, but I
don't even know where we are. So how could you label me with anything that is just like
they have to pathologize everything? And it's funny because now the diagnosis has moved away from psychotic schizophrenia to something called F29.
Wait, say that again?
It's the diagnosis has moved from psychotic schizophrenia to something called F29, which is unspecified unorganic psychosis. What does that mean? I don't know. But it means that they're trying to pathologize everything, especially with those that have abilities. Like, if anyone's seen Black Lightning, like Black Lightning is like the perfect depiction of almost what happened to me. Like, and a lot of us who fall in this category of people who show up with heightened abilities and heightened states of awareness are X-Men. These are threats to the establishment. So they need to be able to identify who's who, where are they, whatever, what are they able to do, because then it's like they almost use it as like case studies, because they don't know. So they use you to understand as research tools. And that's what they were actually doing to me. They were actually, the whole time in the hospital was just evaluations of them using pricks and all this kind of stuff. But essentially it's all the same thing. I've just lost my train of thought, so I'm not even going to try and see if I can.
experiencing like what they were doing to you in the hospital with all kind of tests and experiments, just to come up with certain conclusions, I guess.
Yeah, so it's what I was so the diagnosis is the pathology of everything, because they can't understand things in such a solid form. Right. They have to put a label on it.
I actually think they understand those forms quite well. It's just they use that so that we don't understand what it is. Yeah, I think they know exactly that. We know that they know that we see things, that we are seers, and we're not like seeing what's not there. We're actually seeing what's there that most people don't see.
No, I think you're right, because remember I said to you that a few months ago on the BBC over here, they put on a documentary about psychosis, and it's called Psychosis for me. And it was a black man, an actor, who was talking about his experiences of psychosis. And one thing that he was actually, a lot of the experiences he had, and he was speaking about how he kept saying, I need to save the boy, I need to save the boy. So this is like his inner child literally speaking to him through the experience.
But the realms are getting like mixed up.
Right. And he even was talking about them, like everything was like a mirror. It's like he couldn't even look in the mirror because he was aware that the person that was in the mirror was not the person that was standing in front of it. Like it was all of these different things. But I think they put that on the TV specifically to kind of enforce the narrative of psychosis. So that because I already knew that these types of experiences are going to intensify as time goes on. So they need to get in front of the story, get in front of the narrative, so that everyone knows, if you're experiencing this, please know that you're experiencing psychosis and you need to take yourself into a hospital so you can get medication. But the medication is just dealing with symptoms that the practice or the system that you're under doesn't actually know how to effectively go and deal with the causes of the symptoms. But all it's doing is just putting plasters over the symptoms and actually intensifying it, actually, because if you look at the medications and the side effects that are on the medications, you're trying to take antidepressants for to stop yourself from feeling suicidal. You're going to find suicides on there. You're going to find hallucinatory thoughts on there. You've got everything that you're trying to get away from and take this medication for is going to be coming up in your, it's a side effect.
Right.
So they know exactly, and this is why I say it's a whole thing of population control.
It's so crazy, because in order to be in the state of true psychosis, there's a main part of you that has to be comatose. Or sleeping. So if you think of it, most people are suffering from psychosis, and the people that they think are suffering from psychosis are not. They're actually waking up.
Right.
But people who are dealing with issues that are coming from their state of sleep and they're perpetuating those issues more in their lives, they're kind of suffering from a psychosis, because there's a part of them that is not awake.
Right.
You're getting lost in a dream. And when you get lost in a dream, it ultimately means that you'd have no control, that you're not a lucid dreamer.
Right.
So I'm a lucid liver and dreamer. So I don't have psychosis. I used to. Right. So that's how kind of like how I see it. But those who, that's why I said, even being in a state of paranoia sometimes, that can be psychosis trying to get a grip on your sight, because you're reacting to it in a way where you feel out of control.
Right.
This shit is too weird. I don't understand how I must have gone through a paradigm shift to a point where my cell phone can literally transport into my backyard twice, and then my entire laptop can transport into my backyard with closed windows the same, like the next day. Like, how am I not like, it's because I've, just going through the processes. I'm like, okay, like I was able to handle this experience. If this was like 3 or 4 years ago, I might have had to like, check in somewhere or call the police. And you call the police.
Even talking on that, one of the glitches that was also happening is that they took over my phone and my laptop. Like, so they were actually, all of the music that was like, I didn't even play music. Music would play on my phone, and specific new songs would play that were in line with my with my experiences. Mm-hmm. Like, I would get links pop up on my phone that were, again, like, linked to my experiences. But this is the important thing, and this is why I say to people all the time: don't get so caught up on synchronicities. Synchronicities are, there's a polarity to it. There's duality. It's light or dark. You can literally get led down negative synchronicities, and you can get led down positive synchronicities. So if you see 1111 and you know you're like, oh my god, synchronicity, oh, this must mean that I must know. Check. Like, if you get a message and you're like, okay, this is in sync with my, no, let's check. Like, let's really, really
how do you check to see if it's algorithm versus synchronicity, or are they one and the same?
Go back to my heart. Like, I always have to just take a moment, slow everything down, like, remove myself from this illusion and come into what is truth, which is my heart, which is inside of myself. And then I just feel it out. Like, I'm extremely clairsentient, so I always pick up my messages by my senses, my physical senses, my physical feelings. So I have to feel it out and be like, okay, is this truth? Is this truth? The faintest voice, that's what I listen for.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that feels right with me. Like, it's like I would transcend the first voice that starts speaking, because normally that's like the AI, the programming, whatever. I wouldn't listen to that. I'll just hear it and be like, okay, cool. I'm still waiting for the message. I'm still waiting. Right. And then when I get it, I'm like, okay, cool. So you need to move out the way, because I never asked for you. But this is what I resonate with. And it's just learning. It is practice. It's not easy. And this is why, like, in this whole spiritual, conscious, whatever, it can be really crazy, because that in itself creates anxiety, because no one really knows how to decipher what's true or not.
That's exactly what it is.
You know, so
because they haven't built that compass or that reference point inside of them strong enough to be sure about what happens, what that truth is, or again, what they can trust.
And it's also about understanding and accepting the fact that, even though, and I see this a lot with people, I'm an intuitive, but I'm not the only intuitive. Everyone's an intuitive. Everyone, and in fact, there's a level to this intuition thing in itself, because I feel like a lot of it is just paying attention. It's not nothing deep. It's not like, you know, people like to put psychics on the top, and even though my intuition is very on point, I'm not any higher than anyone else. Like, you have the ability to tap in and be in tune with your intuition if you take the time to understand it and sit with it. Like, that means sitting with yourself. That means removing the distractions. I removed distractions away from me for 6 years. I was basically stuck in my home, which is what I am only now learning how to get back out, because I had to learn how to really be in tune with myself. I was too external. I was too extroverted. I was too in everybody's business to really know what was going in myself. And this is what made it so easy to be able to trust authorities in whatever they were saying, because I hadn't really solidified that ground within myself. So whatever anyone else says that sounds like they've got authority must be true.
And the way we assign authority is just, we give it away like fruit snacks.
Yeah.
Like, somebody says something that sounds like, you put 3 sentences together and this resonates. Okay.
Yeah.
It's just like, when do we get to this point where we, you know, but I get it though. I feel like we do have a long way to go.
Oh yeah.
Because people have forgotten that they run this and people, it's a lack of self-trust, lack of creativity. I think those are the 2 main things, because the lack of creativity comes from a point where people would, it's almost, and I always say this in my other groups where, like for instance, when we talk about spiritual rituals, right? There are some people who prefer like everything's a ritual, right? So it's just, I have to light this candle, I have to have these crystals, I have to say this thing 7 times in order for this to work. But the thing is, it may work, right? But understand that it's working because of you. Like, you are pouring your energies and intentions into whatever it is that you're doing. You can put together, two pieces of gum and like make something work. You know what I mean? And that's the other thing that's disruptive too, because people make money off of that too. So it's more of like, people have to understand that ritual, that's like your blank canvas. Create your rituals. That is like I love creating rituals for myself. No one has to tell me to do this and say that 3 times. And there are people who actually sell that. And matter of factly, if you don't, and I was a part of that whole thing for a little while, where I got even intimidated because I thought I was doing something wrong. So, like, oh my God, I forgot to make an offering to my ancestors.
Right.
Oh my God, my ancestors are going to be mad at me. And bad things are going to happen. So I feel inclined to make sure I get to my altar tonight before, and stuff like that. And I was just like, this doesn't feel like.
No, I snapped out of that.
Good.
I was like don't make no sense. How about just come out of church and then doing the same things I was doing in church, but in a different setting? It's no different.
Setting. Yes. So it's like, say this 3 times, do it that way, wear that color. And it's not about, and I understand there are certain traditions and cultures that pass down rituals, but see if it resonates first. That's all. Like, there's no disrespect to culture and tradition, but if it doesn't resonate with you, then create a version that does, if you prefer to ritualize certain things for bindings or whatever it is that you need to do. I'm not anti-ritual. Like I said, to me, that's like the art. Like, I'll just put stuff together and I'm like, yes, I'm on it. But the lack of creativity is that part. Like, most people, again, they want the cheat sheet. They'll pay you $250 for a money spell, and it's just like, be creative. The reason why you probably need the money spell is because you're not being creative enough. Right? Trust your spirit, trust your intuition. And this is with all love and no judgment. Like, it's just like, y'all gotta wake up. We got to wake up. We are creators for real.
And another thing with the rituals thing, and this is something I had to learn by force, because with this whole glitch thing and the mental health, I lost everything that I ever owned, including my home and everything inside of it. All of the things that I was buying, all of my spiritual equipment that I was doing for the latest spells and whatever, all gone. So then I had to learn minimalistic rituals.
Wow. Okay.
I'm not using tools. What am I using? Myself, my mind, like my hands. That's why I started actually doing these OA movements. We forget that the power that we're seeking in all of these tools, we put that power in there.
Those tools, exactly.
Like, so all of the crystals that you think that you need to get,
no,
you are the ultimate crystal.
Meanwhile, because you're not like shielding yourself like just naturally, right? You got a wizard over here that's shaking your hand, giving you a whole spell just from a handshake, and you're taking it home with you. That person that person was not at home with a doll and a thing and a picture of it. No, this person, real time, gave you a spell by shaking your hand. And now you have it. Why? Because all of your defenses are down. You don't trust yourself. You don't believe in yourself. You got all these people who know that about you, and they completely are experts in their field of doing these things, and they pass things on to you.
They don't even need to touch you, because what they were doing to me is and this is why I know this is why I had to learn the power of the mind, because crystals couldn't help me from that. Oils couldn't help me from that. They were trying to plant psychic things into my subconscious mind. Like, they were actually putting all of these messages in whilst they were engaging with me. These were high level sorcerers.
I know exactly what you. Thank you for saying it. Right. High level sorcerers. Mm-hmm. They are out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I know when I see one, I know I can recognize them now that I know what they look like.
Right.
Like on an energetic level, I know I can spot them from a mile away.
Right.
And it's just like, I'm not afraid of them. Like, no, like I'm in that realm too. Like, don't mess with me.
Yeah.
But I see you and you get over on me. So go ahead to the next person, because it's just not going to work here unless I agree to it, unless it's something that I'm like engaged with on purpose. But most of the time I'm not.
Just you know, you could be walking out on the street completely unaware, and there could be 10 sorcerers that you could have had encounter with that you don't have protection from because you're not actively doing that protection within yourself.
And here's the thing. I know some people are just like, well, I mean, you know, if you know that you're powerful, then you're protected. And I always use this analogy because we always got to make common sense out of all of this, is that yes, you have everything you need, but if it's like 30 degrees outside and snowing, you mean to tell me that you'll walk outside naked and go to work?
Yeah.
Because you don't need like clothes? It's kind of the same thing. It's a cultural necessity in like what your actions are on the regular. So every day we live in a society where we put on clothes and we go outside and we go based upon the elements, the weather. So if it's cold outside, I'm going to put on a jacket. It's just that simple. So again, when you're leaving your house and your temple and you're going out into the world, put on your jacket and put on your, like, make sure your shield is activated. And people be like, well, how do you do that? Figure it out. Figure it out. What is your shield? What does it look like? Close your eyes for 2 seconds and visualize it.
I usually place an invisible cloak on me a lot of the time.
Okay.
Especially when I'm not aware and I'm not really, like, I'm under this invisible cloak. My family's under this invisible cloak, and this cloak is not only just over this, it's extending across my whole aura, which can literally be my whole area.
Yeah, football field.
Your whole football field. So I'm extending this cloak across all of my magnetic fields, my physical body, my astral body, my emotional body, all bodies, as far as it expands. And I'm making sure that I'm continually shielded and protected, because, what I notice is that, especially those that are powerful and don't know their light, they are seeing their light. It's almost like where flies flock to and moths flock to light.
Yeah.
They see you. They are paying attention, but you're not paying attention. So it's just about, it's nothing to be afraid about. There's nothing to lock yourself in a closet about, because this is just reality. But it's just about being aware and understanding that this whole reality it's actually founded on legalism. So even with sovereignty, like, they can't do certain things with you unless you understand your sovereign rights and you are able to affirm and express that in a specific way. There's a language that is spoken in this whole thing. Like, you was talking about the whole subconscious language, like,
I'll give you an example, and it's something so simple, and sometimes people don't know that they're doing it. This is why it's the whole subconscious thing. So I remember I was with friends and we were watching Hunger Games, and it had came on, and one of my friends, she was just willy-nilly, and she was just like, oh my God, this is us. And I said, no, that's not me. I'm not playing that game.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. That's the thing. So she didn't know, she didn't mean that, but she included us in her projection and included us in saying that that's us. And people don't understand that subconsciously, when you agree to that, that will turn into your game. That will insert you into that reality if you don't. So automatically, I just said no. Even when I went to a party and the DJ, he started off the party by saying, I'm feeding off of your energy. I feed off of your energy. Give me more energy. And I said, well, I don't give permission for that, but I enjoy your music, homie. Like that is just, I can still flow with you and listen to you, but there's certain agreements that I have to knowingly either disagree or accept in real time when people are talking. It's like on a regular.
Yeah.
I'll give you automatic thing.
I'll give you another example back to the whole police situation.
Mm-hmm.
When he came into the room, and now and it links into the whole martyrdom program, because this was a program I was fighting at the time. Really, really fighting this program. Now, when this whole thing kicked off, I've just lost my train of thought again. Brain is really playing with me today. What was I just saying? Right. So the police officer. So he forgot. What was you just talking about?
I was just talking about the example of like the, shutting it down with the certain agreements. So the DJ.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he said to me, he was like, you're coming, when he said to me, you're coming with me. I was like, no, I'm not coming.
Okay.
He was like, well, one of you is coming. I said, no, none of us are coming.
Okay.
So we were going through this back and forth
of agreements.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was like a legality. It was like a Masonic type language where it's like he had to catch me out, like, of what I was actually saying, like, and what I was actually affirming. And because this whole martyrdom program I was fighting it at the time, I was like, okay, I need to protect this person, like my family member. I need to protect them. Like they don't know about this world. I do. So I have to go.
Wow. Okay. Oh, so the whole martyrism. Okay. Yeah.
So it plays in there. So like that's literally how it works.
But the thing is, you stood affirmative in responding with your agreement or lack of acceptance to what he was saying.
Right.
You going anyway, but you kind of stood your ground and created your boundaries from that standpoint. So by the time you got there, there was a whole other flow and energy coming from you.
Listen, that scared the shit out of every single person that worked in this place, because what they couldn't understand was my level of authority that I was standing, even amongst the craziness that was going on, because they were like, okay, she should not be okay. Like, but she's able to tell us what is about to happen from what is not about to happen, and that was like a dissonance that they were feeling, and they just couldn't understand it. But it was me having to make sure that I put down this boundary. Listen, you guys are not taking me where I don't want to go.
Here's what's dangerous to them. Most people who are very well suited or highly adept in these areas of recognizing the hidden language of things and people and situations, most of those are served on the platter through either bloodline or some kind of organization or order. And when I think what's kind of like, it's like there's many of us who are waking up to the game of the order. We're speaking the language, we understand the language, but we are independent. And when you have too many independents out there who recognize the language on this level, who are on the even playing field, like mentally, spiritually, and all of that, but you belong, what organization do you pledge? What? No initiation? Who initiated you? And when all of the answers to that lead to that self-authority and just, I initiate myself and I've awakened into my own order, and I'm still tapping into the things that you were taught in your levels, okay, of initiation. It's almost like a semi resentment, first of all, to some who are just like, she gets to be free and still kind of like participate, but I have this obligation. And then sometimes it's kind of like a surprise. Sometimes people are intrigued. Like, you get all kinds of different reactions in being an independent.
Facts, because I'm telling you, the hospital was full up of secret societies. And what I didn't understand was, well, I did understand, but I didn't understand. So at the time when this was happening, I was actually writing a book called The Rediscovery of the Alchemist Within. This book was a channel, okay? I was just channeling. I was into symbols, and I was specifically studying Chinese symbols. I was going into a lot into Chinese astrology as well, but symbols was really intriguing to me, because I was like, no, the pictures are the language that we need to be paying attention to, even in numbers, in letters, in everything. It's a symbol. It's not words. It's just, or letters. It's symbols. So I started to look at everything as symbols, and I started to decipher everything. That, I didn't realize that was the perfect grounding preparation for this experience, because that's how I was able to identify these secret societies, by the symbols and the codes and the colors and everything.
Oh, yes.
So I was aware of these symbols, but where I knew that there was definitely something going on is the fact that they went and got my book that I was writing out of the house that I was in, brought it to the hospital, and we're reading it outside. Like, what is this? What are these concepts he's writing? And these were specific concepts, because I actually wrote like, I had like what's it called? You know, when you have like a letter for things as a word, not anagrams, like, you know, when you've got like, so I had Ondo, O-N-D-O, and that was like one natural divine order. So while they're saying Ondo, what is Ondo? Yeah, acronym, that's it. What is Ondo? That's a concept I created. Why are you reading that out? Why are you trying to decipher it? You know, so it was like they were trying to figure out, hold on, how does she have all of this information and she's not not initiated?
Not part of an order or initiated.
Right.
Unless you are, you just don't know about it.
Well,
maybe that's another conversation we have, because the whole thing is,
there was definitely something
kind of dropped off like storks into like false families. They got handlers, not even realizing that at childhood they were raised in like underground bases, memories that have been implanted, and you think you had a specific kind of childhood, but you didn't. So you think you're just like some regular person, but you are actually being bred for something very specific, and a very specific program under a very specific order. And you kind of playing the little old me syndrome, like, I'm not that important. I'm not Beyonce. But it's just like, no, there's some other things in other parts of the web that you're not aware that you're a part of. So maybe there is an order, you know, so that's some other deep dive kind of thing, but your knowledge, you're not.
Yeah, definitely. That's real. And that's definitely things I've been getting some downloads in connection with that, especially over the last few months. So I don't remember any of my childhood. I was grown up in a cult. And
wait, you were brought up in a cult?
Yeah.
Yes, I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, I was brought up in a cult, and it's funny how this cult was appearing around the time when I got sectioned. I ain't seen them since. I left that cult when I was like 12 years old.
Wow.
So the fact that they were around, I just felt like there was an infiltration between church and state, and that type of thing going on. That what was definitely coming up for me was programs in connection to the church, and all of the ways that we relinquished our sovereignty through birth certificates, through baptismal certificates, wedding certificates, all of these different types of things. And that was almost like their hold and their, it's almost like they have an entitlement to you because of that. And because I had gone off this other way, it was like, no, this is the entitlement. This was in contract. Where are you going? Where do you think you're going? You can't just get out that easy. And I feel like that's what that tug of war was during this whole experience. It was definitely crazy. So I'm definitely picking up stuff with that and being implanted in families.
You feel like you've even recognized some people in your life that may be handlers.
Oh yeah, definitely. Handlers. Like my family is handlers. Like my whole family.
Whoa.
Which is why they were key in this whole experience. So that's how deep it goes. But it's almost like it was a cover-up from everyone. It's like you're the only one who doesn't know. Everyone else does though.
Everyone else was in it, like in your family and everything.
Right.
Wow.
It's a lot that is just getting unraveled, and it's like, okay, this is extremely interesting. But I guess it creates it's very disturbing as well, because a lot of people especially in that are coming through now, there is that disconnection from family. So when you come into like the spiritual and conscious community, you're almost expecting to find your soul family and your soul tribe and all of this kind of stuff. And I feel like that's another thing that becomes like what's the word? Like a deception or a loophole kind of thing. To be able to get you in a way, because you're always trying to connect to something. You know you're meant to connect to something, but where you come, like your original setup doesn't even state that you connect to something.
Yeah. It's kind of like that orphan Annie syndrome. Like, right. Who's my mommy? Who's my real mommy? Who's my daddy? It's just like, almost reminds me of that superhero kind of like program with when you watch like Heroes, and how the cheerleader, she didn't know that she was adopted, number one. Then the guy, he was working, he was a handler, he was handling her. He was given to her by like an organization to keep an eye on her, to protect her also, and at the same time. But he was supposed to release her when she awakened into her abilities, but he didn't follow the rules. So that whole thing. And it's like, what I'm getting is that even with certain handlers, even if you feel that they're in your family, it's almost as if consciously sometimes the handlers don't know that they're handlers.
No, they don't.
They are actually, it's a program running, and there's a report back whether it's through sleep, dream state, or a download from, I mean, it's so easy. Like the tech that they're actually using for our minds are like out of this world. And there's a report back of how the situation is going, from the handler, without the handler having to be present.
The family member that I had the altercation with, they don't even have their own eyes, like their own cornea. They have the cornea of someone else's eyes. So when this whole thing was happening, I didn't feel them. I felt whoever's eyes they had.
Wait a second. So you're saying that on a metaphysical level, or you're saying
like real, like they've had a cornea transplant because they have keratoconus.
So they have someone else's eyes.
Right.
Wow. And this is something that you recognize the difference.
Yeah.
So you've seen their real eyes, and then at some point their eyes completely changed, and it was somebody else's eyes.
No, they actually have someone else's eyes. They've had to have a transplant. But when this whole thing kicked off, it was like they wasn't themselves. They were someone else. But I was like, no, it's the eyes. That someone else is using their eyes.
Oh, using their eyes. Okay, I hear
So,
you.
And then even another one in the family have their pineal gland fluid drained. So it's almost like a empty seat. Because your pineal gland, like that's your consciousness, right? So who has your consciousness, and why did that, even just how that even happened in itself was really dodgy, because that was around the time this whole thing happened. And this is why Get Out was really important for me, because that came out around the same time as this, but it was like they were using that person who they took the fluid out of. They were using them to connect to me because we are that close. So it's like, it was like, that's the we can only get to her through her, because she won't allow us to get to her by directly.
Okay.
You get what I mean? So yeah, that whole thing is very, very real, and you can see how it plays out. They won't know what's happening. They're totally unaware.
Yeah, that's the thing about it. They're totally unaware.
Yeah.
For those of you out there who want to dive deeper into some of this, if you suspect that you've been a part of that somehow, Max Spears.
Yeah.
If you look him up, Max Spears, Speirs, I believe, or IERS. Max Spears, he actually died. He actually claimed, he sent a mother, he was killed.
Yeah.
He sent a message to his mom a day before and said, if I die, they killed me. And he mysteriously died. But he was a huge whistleblower of the super soldier program. He was bred, born, raised into becoming a super soldier, victim of MK Ultra, altered states, used to kill and assassinate, not remembering anything, trips to Mars, the moon, all of that. And he even talks about how his childhood was a setup as well. So yeah, Max Spears, he's really good with that.
And he goes a lot into the B positive blood type, of how they are specifically susceptible to programming, because I think he's a B positive himself. So this super soldier program is almost targeted for B positives.
Really?
Yeah.
So you said B positive is it's a blood type that's susceptible to programming more.
Yeah.
Is there a why behind that?
I can't remember why. I remember doing some research into it, but I remember I wrote it down. I couldn't remember why it was, but I remember that that's what he goes into, more into that blood type specifically. But Matt Spears, he's very interesting. But I find it very interesting that he's also from the UK, because the UK is the creator of this mind technology that is going on, and this is why they're doing so much tests over here. There's another guy on YouTube, Shane Gibbs, I think it is. He's also from the UK. He exposes a lot of what's happening with these programs, even with the Voice of God program that's happening. They're trying that a lot. Like, they tried it with me. They tried.
I don't understand the purpose of it. I haven't looked into it personally. So the Voice of God program, where people are able to hear the voice of the program, to for what? Like, why would people engage with this technology? Because
you actually think it's God. So you think God is telling you to do certain things, and God is telling you that you are this, and that you are maybe an alien, like you've come for this specific thing or whatever, but it's actually a complete deception.
Oh wait, so it's not a technology that's being sold to the public to like buy into and use. It's an actual thing that is being used.
That's what they were doing to me. They were trying to make me accept that I was this. I can't even remember what they were trying to tell me, but they were trying to put these messages in me, but it would have sounded like God, because it's like, okay, this is the higher consciousness that I hear a lot of the time, but I had to decipher whether that felt true or not. and it didn't.
So even ultimately testing out, like for instance, because I mean, we're still in this petri dish of experimentation. You know, I even feel like you and I, Maitreya, we're being experimented on right now. We're kind of reporting back in a way, even though we're going live and we're having conversation, this is still a report back of some sort. So we're fully aware. And who's to say that even, you know, when I talked about the whole voice telling me to cut my locks off, who's to say that me expressing myself via social and talking about that was a way to confirm on whether the program worked on me or not. You know what I'm saying? Like stuff like that. It's just, that's why I'm just expressive, because I just, that part, it just, I'm not going to keep that all hoarded inside of me. It's just,
yeah, there's certain things that I do observe and I'm like, let me not feed into that, because I see what you lot are doing. And there are some things that I do have to affirm, because I've almost like set up within myself, like, no, this is the setup, like this is what's going to happen. And it's like this, you're almost setting that boundary of just affirming, yeah, this is what happened, but I already know what's going on, so go and try it.
Right. But and what I'm recognizing also is, you know, everyone has an Achilles heel, right? And I feel like for people like us, in a sense, we are like, we can be fascinated by mysteries. Am I correct? Right? Yeah. So using that and knowing that that's a thing, you can literally put out breadcrumbs, like programs can put out the breadcrumbs for you to follow. That's why I said I'm tired of I'm not following white rabbits anymore, because to me, that's bringing you more into the sunken place as a mystery seeker or just someone who's searching for truth. And you're kind of like following the rabbit that's actually bringing you more into a sunken place within your consciousness, more than actually being grounded, aware, and present. So I've caught myself drifting away a few times, and I'm like, oh, let me pull myself back in. That is unnecessary. Like that rabbit wasn't even worth it. Like, where am I right now? You know, I don't have to follow every goddamn mystery and quest, but that's like people who are naturally drawn to that mystery are the perfect targets.
Also with that as well is, be careful, because they will literally control your algorithms even by the things that you watch, your YouTube. So this is what they were doing to me, is that they set a trail for me, like to go down this rabbit.
What's the probability of her clicking that? No, the AI says, well, the probability is about, there's a 10% chance that you may click.
They know you're gonna bite the bait, like you're so predictable. So it's
so
like,
predictable, right?
It's like, be careful. Like they will literally plant things in your reality to distract you deliberately, but you feel like, oh yeah, oh, what's that video? Oh, open up, you enter into a realm that you end up going down this road, and it's like it's further away from the truth that you thought you. This is what I mean. It's anxiety consciousness, because you're not actually grounded in yourself. You're allowing your anxiety to lead you into consciousness that is not actually true. You know, like all of these different streams that we create for ourselves. It's just like, we need to learn how to be steady, because it's all good. We can all do that.
Someone gave some great advice. A friend of mine, he was on a panel of mine, and he said, sometimes there's a time and place to ask why is the sky blue? And then there's also a time and place to just enjoy the sky. And that resonated with me so much, because that brought me right back to center. You don't always have to dig and dig and dig, asking why, you know, because it's so easy, because everything is accessible to us. So we can figure out the answer through technology all the time, or just, you know, so every now and then, just enjoy the sky, enjoy the earth, enjoy your life. You don't have to figure out the secret. Enjoy it. And then maybe you can kind of just switch back and forth between those two worlds, because that's something that is a part of you. I will always be a seeker in that sense. But again, like you said, to be locked up in the library and the Akashic records and not going outside and applying it's destructive over time.
And there has to be an element to where what you're looking at, whatever you're researching, there has to be a practical element to it. Like a lot of what we're looking into is nowhere near, but how is it going to help us? How does it help you knowing a lot of the stuff
at the end of the day? How does this help you? How does it help you? Yeah.
Like, we have to be real about things because we're spending more time and we don't have time in this dimension. There's an allotted time, even though you can operate outside of time. Within this third dimension, time operates. So you need to understand that time is precious, and the time that you're exerting to things that are irrelevant right now, like let's really be selective about these things and really be aware of our priorities, because we've got our priorities completely messed up right now, which is why a lot of us are having our relationships and our finances and just constantly going through these constant roller coasters that don't need to happen, because we're attracting it to us. We're not grounded,
right?
And we're gonna keep getting these towers until we ground ourselves. Like it's just the universe way of just saying, okay, get it. And do you know what? It's so crazy because and I said this in my video that I uploaded today, and I was saying that I'm kind of glad for the experience that happened with mental health and everything. At the time, it was not funny, right? Because it was literally a stunt to my progress. I was at a peak that I've never hit before in my life. Like that was like my peak. So when I'm at my peak and I'm fully tapped in, then I've been transported into this prison, and then everything's just been taken away from me.
Mm-hmm.
My giftings, like I can't really hear anymore. I can't really discern anymore. That was the most unstable place for me to be, because I can no longer go up there. Whereas, so it's natural for me to do. I had to really learn how to find something else to do, which was ground, which was get into my reality. And I feel that was done purposely so that I could change my perspective of what I was actually doing. I was going down a very destructive road, even though it would have seemed okay. It would have been like, yeah, you're doing well, you're ascending. No, like the process is descension, like getting into your body, like getting into this realm, into this reality. Like the people that are controlling this reality, they're using that information and using it against you, making you feel like you don't have, that you shouldn't be, like as a spiritual person, I shouldn't be rich. Like, like I have to be humble. What? Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not to be greedy, but why shouldn't you have financial stability? Why should you have to feel that, I'm not deserving of this, but these people can do whatever they're doing, utilizing resources that you actually have access to.
People that create the damn religions, they don't even follow them. Okay, so why is it they get to like override the commandments and such, and they don't get caught up for their consequences in doing so? Why are they not afraid of sinning?
Mm-hmm.
It's because they made it up.
Yeah.
And again, we are capable of understanding what, because people say without religion we would just be animals, in a sense of just being completely primal. And if we didn't have rules and law set in place, then we would just run amok. But no one remembers like when we were like clans and tribes, and when we were operating together as a unit, and we were playing our parts and our roles and contributing to our collective together without these external rules being put in place before they kind of came and colonized everything. We were already doing it, and we were following the laws of the universe. We were following the laws of nature, the spirals. We were following expansion. We were following contraction. We know that, it's like breath, when you breathe and then you breathe out and in, it's a contraction, you know. So there's going to be a space to fall, to descend, to go downward into the underbelly of experiences and come back up. Like, but they understood that, so they were prepared to deal with these different dips and curves of life. And without, you know, sure, they fought and they had beef with other tribes and clans, but it was always in honor for the most part. It was very honorable fighting. There's a difference between fighting with honor, like, you know, hey, this is our, you did something, you know, and a lot of, even when you look back into a lot of the ancient tribes of many different indigenous peoples, they have like this gathering, this community gathering of holding a person accountable. Wow. So, you know, not to say it was all perfect, but it was actually an operation without the puppet strings. Right. Until the puppet strings came and said, you guys are living like savages. We have a better way. It's called hierarchy. So now we're going to bring, that's why even with Kemet, you know, people are like Kemet. But I'm like, the dynasties were coming from that wasn't us. Yeah. The dynasties were brought to us through hierarchy and through religions that we weren't following. So when people talk about the mythologies of even, and I'm bringing up Kemet because most people are familiar with that, is those texts are not even accurate. Those have been changed. The Sumerian text, all of that changed. That's who these Anunnaki that we speak of. Okay, those factions brought in, it's a very Atlantean way of living. So you have like that Lemurian aspect, which is more tribal, clannish, just natural living, flowing, ups and downs, creating, whatever, it's life, right? And then you have the Atlantean way, which I feel is more of the movie. So the Atlantean perspective, it's not bad or good. The Atlantean perspective brought in secret society. They brought in, you know, hidden knowledge, secret society, brotherhood, orders. They brought in king, queen, dynasty, orders of the court, the common folk, kind of that separation. They brought that in. So there was like this culture that we were still adopting that wasn't even ours either. So we could be proud. Yes, we look back, we see the kings and queens, but even that, I'm reading the book. I don't have it up here on King Tutankhamun. I don't want to say King Tut, but you know, Tutankhamun, right?
Yeah.
That's the best. I'm gonna say it. But that's the next thing after reading the Nefertiti Book of the Dead, and I'm just reading on and on and on, and it's the same shit. It's the same politics. It's the same thing. He didn't really rule in the way that he wanted to. He actually was a king that actually wanted to be a noble king, or a king kind of like bringing that divine masculinity into it. And he was controlled by his grandfather, who was more on the, you know, that hierarchy. We got to keep the order. He was obsessed. And it was like a false sense of Ma'at. So we got to restore Ma'at, but we're going to like force the flower open at the same time in creating that order. So it was an obsession with order that brought them to their fall in dynasties, because that's just not the natural order of things. There is no hierarchy. We can play kings and queens. We can play the dynasty if we want. You know, it's an entertaining movie to play in and game to play, but at the end of the day, it's not who we are.
Right.
So I don't get caught up in the king-queen situation either. It's that caste system that has become, you know, what it is.
Yeah, no, it's definitely a deception. And then even that in itself, like, whilst everyone's trying to be, you know, like replicate this king and queen thing of becoming gods and goddesses, not everyone was a king and a queen. What happened to the normal people that was out there?
No one talks about the common folk. Do you realize in all of the self-glorified stories that we have about our past that's presented to us,
Right.
What about the people? Even when you watch Game of Thrones, nobody cares about the people.
Right.
It's just these families going at it. They're playing chess with each other. That's all this is. It's a game. It really is. And the people, unfortunately, are the pawns on. I'm not even gonna say unfortunately. Like, that's just the game. That's the game. You have the pawns and you have the kings and queens and knights and all of that. So that's their game. They brought that game here.
Yeah. No, it's just about being aware and just making sure that you're tuning into the broadcast of your internal truth, like rather than other people's truth. But I wouldn't even say some of the stuff that is being presented is truth. I'd say it's just missing, like the misinformation that we gather of the misinformation that we've already received. We regurgitate that. Like, it's just this. Like, I just feel that whilst we're like use a lot of this research of connect and all of this kind of stuff in moderation, just so that you understand where you are in this specific time and how you relate to the timeline of humanity or of this earth or whatever. But don't get lost into it, because these are not their stories. Like, there's so much
and
to
again,
know.
we only get the highlights. We don't get like the real
Right.
anyway.
You got a whole ass Vatican and you think you got the whole story. Like, we've just got the portion that they wanted to release that actually became like, they, when you release something for control purposes, like you leak out information, but you're actually controlling the leak anyway. Like, you already know what you want that leak to do. That's what they're doing.
Yeah.
So, like, let's get off this whole idea that we've got everything here. Like, I know that. No, we don't know nothing. We're just about learning, and it's about. I feel like this is why even the Bible was just talking about it. It really highlighted just coming back to that child, because it's like when you become that child, you're so embedded in your experience. Like, it's the adult that has the anxiety, that has to put things in boxes, and has to be able to understand this and understand that and whatever. It's the child is just experiencing. Right. So I think we need to like learn. And I feel like even just as I had my child in my Saturn return, so we're sharing the same Saturn right now, which means that the lessons that we're going to be sharing lessons, but I'm able to give him the wisdom of these lessons now. Like, but also I'm able to look at him and learn my childhood, my inner child. I can reconnect back to that self just through watching him. It's a beautiful integration that's happening right now, and I think this is why I'm trying to come back to earth, because I'm just like, why have I made this? Like, what's been going on? Where are we going? So I think it's definitely an interesting process, an interesting journey, and I just encourage everyone to just try it. Just try living for once. Like, let's just try it. Like, just try it.
What's the worst thing that can happen?
Right.
That's the worst thing. Okay.
Right.
This has been amazing, Maitreya. I know you have your own YouTube channel. I'll share the link in the description. I'll edit it in. Other than that, just to speak out externally what your links are and so on.
Okay, so so my YouTube channel is Soul-Reconnection, so you can head over there. I've got my Instagram, which is I've got 3 different Instagrams. I know, I'm a Gemini. Soul of Nams, and then I've got my 2 business ones, which is Soul Reconnection and the Inner Realms Academy. So just go over there. I've also got my website, which is www.soul-reconnection.com. So if you go to any of those platforms, and you want to be able to find out more about me, it will all be there.
Amazing. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Very much.
Just a quick note this is a super side note. In the comments from my last video I made, some of you guys were asking about Moldavite. The Moldavite has been put back up, just for those of you who are looking for the Moldavites. It's under another link. So the link is in the description. There are new Moldavites available. So just wanted to put that out there for those of you who were asking about, will there be more Moldavite? So there is more Moldavite. So feel free to click. Again, thank you, Maitreya, and always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. This, feminine energy getting together.
Yes, thank you for having me. It's so beautiful.
Absolutely. Enjoy the rest of your night. I know it's late over there where you are.
Yeah.
And good night to everyone else. Thank you.
See you. Bye.